a daily dose of dragon feather. Woo! I'm so excited. It's been a few minutes. I know it's only been 2 days, but I missed you. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time. I hope you're okay. I hope you're having the greatest day ever. I'm having so much fun. Today, we are going to be continuing our read through, our little read along of, you guessed it, The First Sex by Elizabeth Gold David. We are going to be breaking into chapter 14, 15, and 16, I believe. Let me just double check, just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's what we're doing today. All right, so we are starting with, oh no, we're doing 15, 16, and 17 today, my bad. So today we are going to start with chapter 15, Mary and the Greek Goddess. I'm extremely excited. I hope you guys are doing well. I've just been, gone. It was my 5-year anniversary with my boyfriend, so he had like wonderful day planned for us. I had so much fun. He's like literally the sweetest person ever, and I'm so silly. I forgot to put the his Aura tour link. If you guys want to come on tour, please go check out adilc.com. I feel so silly for not linking it in the description. Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. Can I edit a video while I'm live? Am I able to do that? I have no idea. Nightmarefield Studios, hello! Welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. Lands of Dance, welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. I'm so excited. Yes, the spice. Yes, the spice. We are doing the spice today. But yeah, so my boyfriend is going on tour, and I will be going all around the America, and I will be going to Canada. So if you go to adilc.com, you can book a ticket and rock out in the audience with me. So it would be really awesome to meet you guys. I know some of you guys have already booked your tickets. I'm so excited. It's so exciting, okay? Hi, so ready for this book. Also found PDFs of lost books of the Bible. No way, Rebel Child Witchery. That's so exciting. Oh, by the way, welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. Super exciting. But for real though, like I would love to know, what books, like the Book of Enoch and stuff like that. I wish I could, but yeah, boy, bro, it's okay. That's no worries. Hi, Esonator, welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. I'm so excited, you guys. This book is super spicy today. So grab a snack, grab a drink, get cozy, all right? Be prepared to be offended, because that's how it goes. Today we are hold on, I'm just gonna get myself all situated here because it's a little bit chilly. But anyway, so today, grab your drink. Today my drink is some lemon water. I've made my lemon elixir, which is 1 full squeezed lemon, 3 pinches of salt, and 3 pinches of baking soda with alkaline water. Mix it all together with your intentions, and you get yourself a magical little elixir here. So I'm very excited. It's gonna be really good. So I hope you guys are doing well. I really missed you guys, seriously. Woo, that's bitter. It's like lemonade without the sugar. I got cola. That's all good. But are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Hey, Dragon Lady. Hey, Adam, what's up? Welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. Okay. We are here for the spice, all right? You guys ready to find out why God is Mother Mary today? Because I am so freaking hyped. We're going to break into 3 chapters. We're going to do chapter 15, Mary and the Great Goddess, chapter 16, Women in the Middle Ages, and chapter 17, Some Medieval Women. And depending on how we do, we'll see. I'm pretty sure that's all we're going to get to today. But if you're excited, leave a like and let's go, brother, sister. The spice of life. I'm ready. I'm not ready to be offended, but hey, I clicked in. Hell yeah, let's get started. It says, what ails Christianity is what the old Mother Goddess religious theme and the new Almighty God theme are fundamentally irreconcilable. Robert Graves. Are you guys ready? Hold on. I'm like really kind of close. I'm like super cold. Okay. So here we go. Quote, and so, unquote, as Rousseau writes, quote, what the pagans had feared actually came to pass, unquote. With their new power and the blessing of the imperial government, quote, the humble Christians changed their language and their pretended kingdom of the other world became the most violent despotism in this, unquote. In the implacable enforcement of the Christian faith, spies were everywhere, alert to inform against the humble as well as the mighty. Lip service to the church became only safety. Europe became a world of hypocrites, paying overt homage to the new church while covertly worshiping the old divinities. Ooh. And don't we know? We all know that was a thing, okay? We all knew that was a thing. It says, simulating a reverence for the strange religion that confused ethics with morality in a way that hitherto only a small and unknown Jewish sect in Palestine. Free, free, free Palestine, free, free, free Palestine, free, free, free. Okay, so for real, you guys? Okay, this is kind of like driving me a little crazy. Okay, hold on. For real, you guys? If you can click the link in my channel to help a family that I'm sponsoring from Gaza, I would really appreciate it. We are so close to reaching their goal, and I would just really appreciate it if you could help feed my watermelon dragons. I appreciate you forever. So it says, only a small unknown Jewish sect, wow, can I speak now? Only a small unknown Jewish sect in Palestine had done, the real religion went underground. The Black Mass and the Sabbath were far more widespread than the church cared to admit, yet witches' covens comprised only a small fraction of the secret protest against the authority of the church. Like overly restrained children who dare not define Father to his face, the people of Europe formed secret societies at every level, figuratively and literally to thumb their noses at Christianity. The church seemed doomed to failure, destined to go down to bloody death amidst the bleeding corpses of its victims, when the people discovered Mary. And only when Mary, against the stern decrees of the church, was dug out of oblivion, to which Constantine had assigned her and became identified with the great goddess, was Christianity finally tolerated by the people. St. Patrick and Dale Carnegie of the early church was the discoverer of the secret of winning willing converts. St. Patrick, although he had been trained for the priesthood in Rome, had originally been a Celtic Christian of Britain, and he carried with him onto the Catholic priesthood an understanding of the desire of the Celtic peoples for their own goddess. The story is told that when, in his new Romish robes of authority, he landed on the Irish coast, he found the Irish gathered together worshipping an image of Brigante, the mother of gods. Patrick, of the nimble wit and nimbler tongue, soon convinced them that the mother of the gods was really Mary, the mother of God. The always integrating Irish politely agreed to call the goddess Mary and immediately resumed their worship of her. Ireland to this day is a Mary-centered rather than a Jesus-centered land, and are all the remnants of the Celtic peoples throughout Catholic Europe. In Ireland, writes Graves, quote, Christianity had been introduced by eloquent and tactful missionaries, not as elsewhere, as the point of the sword, and the College of Druids accepted Jesus, his mother, as his completing, rather than discrediting their ancient theology. I'm going to try that one more time. It says, in Ireland, writes Graves, quote, Christianity had been introduced by eloquent and tactful missionaries, not as elsewhere, as the point of the sword, and the College of Druids accepted Jesus and his mother as completing, rather than discrediting their ancient theology. Dang, Joe Rogan, welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. And the Church of I Am, welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. Hope you guys are enjoying your time here. We are reading the book called The First Sex by Elizabeth Gold David. We're breaking it down. It's a very offensive book. Prepared to be offended. Major trigger warning. There's some crazy shit in here. Okay. So with that being said, it says, the Irish bishops appointed at first by the kings and not by the popes were expecting to sing low, and they did sing low. They Christianized the goddess as Saint Bridget, patroness of poets, and her immemorial altar fire at Kinsale was still alight under Henry VIII, which, by the way, I actually have a brigid candle. If you guys don't know what a brigid candle is, it basically means any candle that is lit from the one brigid candle in this that we just talked about at the altar in Kinsale is going to be a brigid candle. Okay, I had a back in the day I was in a coven, and my coven leader took a trip to this part of Europe or Ireland, wherever it is exactly, and she brought me back some candles from Brigid Candles. So yeah, I mentioned Brigid in the last time you read this book. Yeah, you did. Nightmare Fuel Studios. Well, here she is coming to say hello. So yeah, it says, let's see, Christ's greatest rival throughout the Roman Empire, as E.O. James writes, was the great goddess. Quote, the goddess of many names, yet only one personality, unquote. And it was Patrick's discovery that the pagans would accept Christ if they could have Mary that changed the official policy towards Mary in the church. Constantine had ordered the destruction of all goddess temples throughout the empire and had sternly forbidden the worship of Mary. Quote, fearing her worship would overthrow... Why can't I read today? Quote, fearing her worship would overshadow her son, unquote. Yet despite the authority of the church, the last surviving goddess temple was not closed until the year 560. Wow. That's a pretty spicy things. There's so many spicy things, okay? So the next section is called, Can the Eternal One Be Female? What's this all about? KJV 1611. Welcome to your Daily Dose of Dragon Feather. We are reading the book called The First Sex. It's basically a really, it's written in 1971. It's a white supremacist but female supremacy take on history and kind of trailing back to discover where humans came from, what are the origins of God, and honestly, how did we get here? Why do people hate women so much? So that's kind of like what this book is all about, and it's extremely offensive, so I hope you enjoy. So it says, how are we to account for the victory of Christianity over the beautiful Greek pantheon? Asks Jane Harrison. She finds the answer to consist in a disturbing element in the classical Homeric gods and goddesses. Quote, they are too beautiful, too artificial to have been natural outgrowths of a people yearning for immortality. The Olympian gods seemed to be like a bouquet of cut flowers whose bloom is brief because they have been severed from their roots. To find these roots, we must burrow deep into a lower stratum of thought, into those chthonic cults which underlay their life, from which sprang all their brilliant blossoming, unquote. What do I think about Jesus? I love Jesus. We love Jesus on this channel. It says, to find these roots, Harrison delved deep into Greek religion and wrote her great work, Themis, tracing Olympians back to their ancient source in the original primordial worship of the goddess Themis, justice, the earliest aspect of the great goddess. Quote, the great goddess, unquote, she found, quote, is everywhere prior to the masculine gods, unquote. When her assumptions were later proven by archaeology, Harrison was delighted. Quote, I found to my great joy that my heresies were accepted by the new generation of scholars as almost postulates, matters of historical certainty based on definite facts, unquote. In Harrison's time, a half-century ago or more, archaeology was still in its infancy, and yet it had already toppled many of man's cherished beliefs and biased preconceptions about prehistory. Primarily, the preconception that human society had always been male-dominated and that the deity, by whatever name, had always been masculine. In the 60 years that have passed since Harrison penned her jubilant words, our concept of history, sex, and religion have been so thoroughly discredited by the proof and testimony of archaeology that all our history books, all our theological theories, and all our ideas about sexual differences and limitations have become obsolete. Yet the textbooks have not caught up with the new knowledge, nor have the theologians, nor the sociologists, nor the politicians. Damn. I'm going to try that sentence one more time. It says, yet the textbooks have not caught up with the new knowledge, nor have the theologians, nor the sociologists, nor the politicians. Is Pickle Chips here? Not today. We are not channeling Pickle Chips today, but we will be channeling Pickle Chips soon again. I promise you. Men and women were meant to complement each other, not fight against each other. You are absolutely right, KJV. Absolutely. I think Pickle Chips is always here. Yes, Lance of Dance, this is true, but not in the sense that, like, Pickle Chips is going to answer questions today, if that makes sense. Your sister's heating pad. Oh my god. Welcome to your Daily Dose of Dragon Feather. I'm obsessed with your username. That is hilarious. Your username is so funny. Oh my gosh. Today we are reading a very offensive book. It's called The First Sex by Elizabeth Gold Davis. It's super exciting. I highly recommend reading it. It's so offensive and trigger warning. We never know what we're gonna get in this book. It says, Robert Graves, writing the similarities of Greek, Celtic, and Jewish religions, arrives at Harrison's conclusion in the vast priority of the goddess, though by a different route. Quote, the connection, unquote, he writes, quote, is that all three races were civilized by the same ancient Aegean people whom they conquered and absorbed, unquote. I'm not sure how accurate that is. These lost people, the ancient race, were goddess worshippers and were woman-oriented, regarding the female principle as the primary one and femininity superior to masculinity. The last concept the new people could not endure, and in the process of humbling femininity, they at the same time overthrew the female deity and set up in her place a male-dominated hierarchy of gods and goddesses. The reason, therefore, for the artificiality and rootlessness of the Olympian gods, as of the Jewish and Christian God, is that they are contrived, deliberately invented by patriarchs to replace the ancient Greek goddess. Thus, the only reality in Christianity is Mary, the female principle, the ancient goddess reborn. I'm going to read that sentence last one more time. It says, thus the only reality in Christianity is Mary, the female principle, the ancient goddess reborn. It was because of their lack of authenticity that the classical gods fell into Christianity, yet not, says Graves, to masculine Christianity, not to Jehovah or Jesus, but to Mary. Interesting. It said, oh, what'd you say? I want another Rosie channeling stream someday. Yeah, we'll definitely do another one, I promise. Thanks, I've been watching you for the past 5 years. So nice to see you live. Oh my gosh, thank you. That's so exciting to catch you live. Hells yeah. It's so exciting when you guys finally catch me live. I really wish this would just stay on my head. I need veil clips because Pickle Chips wanted me to veil for Mary today. I felt it was necessary to veil for Mary. Okay, respect. Gotta respect the Mary, you know what I mean? We love Mary here. We love Rosie. We do love Rosie. I can't wait to bring her back, honestly. Lucky number 26. Hi, welcome back to your daily dose of Dragon Feather. It's so good to see you. Hope you're having fun today. The ancient prevalence. That's not what it said. The ancient prevalence of goddess worship, writes Graves, quote, is not merely an antiquarian interest for the popular appeal of modern Catholicism is, despite the all-male priesthood and the patriarchal trinity, based rather on the ancient goddess and the Aegean mother-son religious tradition to which it has reverted in the adoration of Mary, than on its Aramean or Indo-European God elements. I don't know if that's a good word. I think it's spelled Aramaean. I don't know if that's a Nazi word. We are getting there, my friends. It says, in short, Christianity succeeded, ultimately because it was represented. In short, Christianity succeeded ultimately because it represented a return to the original goddess worship, which the Olympian gods had temporarily replaced, but which had never been totally replaced in the minds and hearts of the people. Montesquieu, quoting Cyril's letters, says that when the people of Ephesus were informed by the bishop in the 5th century, quote, that they might worship the Virgin Mary as the Mother of God, they were transported with joy. They kissed the hands of the clergy, they embraced their knees, and the whole city resounded with acclamations, unquote. Humans crave a divine God, like a divine feminine. Humanity craves a divine feminine to worship, okay? It's not just an idea, okay? It's like super ingrained in human psychology and human spirituality. I literally just ordered a statue of Mary a few days ago, waiting for her to get here. That's awesome, dude. This came right on time then. Cheers to Mary, Mary. Okay. It says, and because of Mary and her identification in the medieval mind with the primordial great goddess of the Celts, Christianity was able eventually to triumphant over the, quote, artificial and rootless, unquote, male gods who had been consciously invented in patriarchal ages to conceal the eternal one. Quote, can the eternal one be female, unquote, asks Guide, and does not wait for an answer. Yet it is an interesting fact, as stated earlier, that it is always the Virgin Mary who was seen in visions, never God, never the Holy Ghost, and very rarely Jesus. The great Christian mystics, to a man and woman, claim to have seen Mary in the flesh at one time or another, and hardly a week passes that some simple peasant or padre somewhere else in the world doesn't have a visitation from, quote, our Blessed Lady, unquote. Those interested in the physical research may wonder whether these people actually do see something, the astral or etheric body of a real woman. But of what woman? King Numa saw her in the grotto in Nemi and called her Agira. Bernadette saw her in the grotto at Loudres and called her Mary. Who can say she is not the materialization of a real, quote, Blessed Lady, unquote? The great goddess herself, quote, the multitudinous multitudinously, thank you, named White Goddess, relic of matriarchal civilization, or, who knows, the harbinger of its return. Heard Mary, Mary, and I couldn't help it. How does your garden grow? I love it. Hi, girly. Sorry I'm late. No, it's okay, Fizzy. Welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. It's so good to have you here. The next section is called Mary in the Middle Ages. Thus, the Church, which in its fanatical patriarchalism had set out to annihilate goddess worship, found itself forced by popular demand and in order to assure its own survival to recognize Mary. Christianity wouldn't survive. It would not have survived without the Divine Mother Mary. Take that in, my friends. They could not go to the extreme of including her in the Trinity, where by ancient religious tradition she belonged, but they did finally and reluctantly, 1900 years later, admit her a seat in heaven with her Son and endow her, like him, with a sinless and superhuman purity. Quote, the Church refused for centuries to pronounce upon the sinless birth of Mary, an immaculacy that would have placed her, Mary, on a par with Jesus, as the only person born without sin. The great schoolmen were against it, and the learned monks fought it to the last. Yet the great masses of the people favored it so strongly that the Church was finally forced to give in, unquote. From the very beginning, the exclusively masculine character of the new religion was resented and resisted by the pagans. From Rome to Greece, from Egypt to Anatolia, and particularly in Europe, abortive attempts were made to throw off the yoke of Christianity, to, quote, restore the old order and reestablish the ancient system, but without success. Christianity prevailed over everything, unquote. The last time of the goddess in Rome, the gold statue of the goddess Vitrus, or Virtue, fell in 410. And with her, writes Ziomus bitterly, quote, finally vanished all that was left in Rome of courage and worth, unquote. This remark raises the questions once raised by Dante, whether Constantine did not do more harm than good by establishing the Church, and the related question raised by many scholars and thinkers included Gibbon, whether Christianity was not responsible for the fall of Rome and Empire and for the chaos of social and intellectual retrogression that resulted therefrom. Quote, an exterminating excellence, unquote, writes Otto Seck, the Church deliberately turned its back on progress and plunged the Western world into the long misery and oppression of the Dark Ages. Christianity is fucking responsible for all our tragedies. Blasphemy. Haven't heard that one in this chat in a while. Oh, I didn't catch it. I didn't catch what they said. Hold on, I'm kind of curious what they said. That's good. That's good. Man, people asking about it. Blasphemy. I haven't heard that one in a while. Honestly, it's a good word, brother, sister. It's a good word. Small reminder, the book isn't accurate, but we're looking for the micro-truth. Yes, Lance of Dance, just a friendly reminder, this book is riddled with misinformation and outdated knowledge and super offensive ideologies, but there are very, very micro-truths in here, okay? Of the divine feminine and goddess worship and stuff like that. Heather Landon, welcome to your daily dose of dragon feather. We're reading The First Sex by Elizabeth Gold Davis. It's very offensive. We have some people getting upset in the comment section, so please brace yourself, okay? Take a deep breath. It's just a book, okay? Cool. All right. It says, but in the darkness a faint light glimmered, a light that gradually grew into a flame that warmed men's hearts and revitalized their hopes. The light was Mary. Men and women flocked to her in droves, and her cult soon rivaled that of Jesus. My girl Mary. My girl Mary. Okay, by the 11th century, she had eclipsed Jesus as the savior of mankind. Quote, the Holy Virgin, unquote, writes Briafalt, quote, called by Albertus Magnus the great goddess, had well nigh placed the male trinity in the devotion of the people. God the Father was unapproachable and terrible. Christ had the stern office of a judge. The Queen of Heaven alone could show untrammeled mercy. She wrought more miracles than all the divine and saintly males in heaven. She had, in fact, entirely regained her original position as the great goddess, the divine prototype of magic womanhood. Usually they just say Jesus is Lord and call us demonic. You right. You right. I think I've only seen blasphemy pop up in this chat like twice. Honestly, it's an honor, because that word is just like super specific and like super like dated. You know, it's like it's giving 1800s. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, Henry Adams, traveling in Europe 70 years ago, was to him a 19th century patristic American male, a startling discovery. The magnificent cathedrals of medieval Europe, those, quote, pagans in stone, unquote, were built not only the glory of God as the church had intended them, but as expressions of the adoration of Mary. Quote, he loved their dignity, their unity, their scale, their lines, their lights, their shadows, their decorative sculpture, and he was conscious of the force that had created it all, the Virgin, the woman, by whose genius is stately monuments were built, through which she was expressed. All the steam power in the world could not, like the Virgin, build Chartres. Symbol of energy, the Virgin has acted as the greatest force in the Western world that wow, I can't read today. Symbol or not. Can I try that again, you guys? I'm really just like destroyed by how difficult that was. Okay. It says, he loved their dignity, their unity, their scale, their lights, their shadows, their lines, their decorative sculpture, and he was conscious of the force that had created it all, the Virgin, the woman, by whose genius is stately monuments were built, through which she was expressed. All the steam power in the world could not, like the Virgin, build Chartres. Symbol or energy, the Virgin has acted as the greatest force the Western world ever felt, and has drawn men's activities to herself more strongly than any other power, natural or supernatural, has ever done. Unquote. Adams did not seem to realize that the mystic power of the Virgin Mary, the woman, the goddess, was a thing as old as time, that it had been this very power which in the primeval eons had held the world together and had started mankind on its own long and frequently interrupted journey towards humanhood. But medieval man, in whose memory the great goddess still survived, knew it. And as he chiseled in stone or raised the flying buttresses on the great cathedrals, he was remembering and honoring her and his ancestors had of old. As this, with his great efforts and his loftiest conceptions, the most beautiful and reverent sculptures are those of Mary. The most perfect paintings are of her. And the most tender and most beautifully executed stainless glass windows represent the mother and child. In spite of the Pope and the secular power of the local padre, medieval man still worshipped the mother of the gods. Medieval man still worshipped the mother of the gods. I got my pitchfork from Home Depot. I love it. It's one of my most treasured carvings. Which carving? I have a lot of Mother Mary, and one of my fave small wood carvings is one of Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus. It's one of my most treasured carvings. Exactly, Heather. That's exactly what we're talking about today, is how sacred her symbolism is. Like, Mother Mary's symbolism is just so profound. And I remember in church, I started getting in trouble when I was asking about, I was like, what about a goddess? Like, as soon as I started learning about Mary, and then when I started leaning into Mary more, that's when I got a lot of religious abuse, because the church that I went to was a lot like that comment we just had to hide from the channel. It was very blasphemous for me to elevate Mary to that of Jesus. It was very, I was considered very naughty for that. So, fuck you, church. That's why I'm not there anymore. Anyway, Mary and the British Celts. The New Testament has nothing to say of Mary after the crucifixion. The lore of the New Testament, however, Mary is said to have been buried by Peter and some of the other apostles in a cave tomb at Jehoshaphat? Jehoshaphat. I've never seen that in my life. It says, 8 days after the burial, her tomb was opened and found to be empty, whereupon Thomas, who had just arrived on a cloud from India, announced that he had witnessed the assumption of Mary from the top of Mount Ararat, where his flying cloud had briefly deposited him en route from India. Jesus himself, said Thomas, had descended from heaven and had conducted his mother upward. On this testimony, Thomas was finally forgiven for having doubted various previous supernatural happenings, and the apostles fell down and worshipped him. Afterward, 12 clouds alighted and bore the united 12 back to their respective ministries. But there is another legend about Mary's later years that is more acceptable to earthbound mentalities. And this is the legend, still current in southern France and England, that Mary died in Marseilles. According to this version, after stoning of Saint Stephen in AD 35, several of his friends and relatives, fearing for their own lives, resolved to flee to Jerusalem and put as much space as possible between them and the Sanhedrin. Joseph of Arimathea thereupon purchased a ship, and in it a small band of Christian Jewish people sailed for Europe. Aboard the ship were Joseph of Arimathea, his niece Mary, who was the mother of Jesus, her cousins Lazarus, Martha, and Mary, and a young orphan girl named Thecla. Is that other Mary, Mary Magdalene? I'm not sure. We'll find out. Maybe we'll find out. I don't know if we'll find out. It says, they sailed along the northern coast of Africa up through the Tyrrhenian Sea and landed in Marseilles the year 36. Quote, Marseilles still gossips, unquote, writes Lionel Smithett Lewis, quote, about these refugees of 2,000 years ago, unquote. Marseilles was a great seaport, the gateway to Europe in Roman times, and from it fine Roman roads led to all parts of the empire. The established trade route to the British Isles from the Mediterranean world led from Marseilles up through Amorica, Amorica, and across the channel of southern Britain. Joseph of Arimathea was thoroughly familiar with this route, and Marseilles was his chosen place of refuge for the reason that he was well known and highly regarded there. For Joseph of Arimathea was a metal merchant and tin tycoon with tin and copper mines in Cornwall and in Somerset in the south of England. He was in the habit of making frequent visits to these mines, and he had many friends among the British Celts, of whom the Celtic king Arvigarus was one. Shortly after the arrival of the Jerusalem refugees at Marseilles, the apostle Philip visited them there on a missionary expedition. Soon finding, however, that the people of Marseilles were too sophisticated and too Romanized to fall into the Christian camp, Philip resolved to go farther ahead. He decided to go to Britain with Joseph of Arimathea, and accompanied by Mary and perhaps Thecla, Martha, and the other Mary, the two men set out for Somerset in the spring of the year. Finding the Celts of Britain hospitable to the new ideas, Philip left Joseph and some of the women there to found a church at Glastonbury, which, according to Gildas, they did in that very same year, 37, while Philip accompanied Mary back to Marseilles. There she later died and was buried. That is the Marcelli's legend. In Somerset and Cornwall, the legend goes back to the childhood of Jesus. In this delightful story, the boy Jesus had accompanied his great uncle and rich merchant Joseph of Arimathea on at least one business trip to Britain, and had so won the hearts of the Celts with his bright and questing mind that they had never forgotten him. Thus, when some 30 years later his mother visited them with Joseph, and they learned of the sad fate of the promising boy, they were eager to build a wattled church in his memory at Glastonbury. Thus did Christianity come to Celtic Britain nearly 600 years before Augustine. Blake's poem, quote, Jerusalem, unquote, is obviously based on this lovely legend. And here's the poem. Marseille. Marseille. Okay, Marseille. Thank you, Leia. I'm doing my best here. But welcome back to your daily dose of Dragon Feather. Oh, hey, Christy. Welcome to your daily dose of Dragon Feather. So exciting. Hey, Zara. Mexican Catholicism, La Virgen de la Guadalupe is very revered, and I have encouraged her in a ceremony. She is beautiful goddess energy. People link her with the Virgin Mary. That is so beautiful, Christy. I've heard that, Jehoshaphat. Thank you for the, Christianity and Second Temple Judaism erased there being a female goddess next to Yahweh. Yes, Heather, you are absolutely correct, my friend. I think I am caught up with this chat, though. But thank you guys for helping me with the pronunciations, because it is a little bit difficult. So that is Marseille. Okay, Marseille, thank you. Funny, my friend and I chatted about Glastonbury. Really? That's so exciting. Well, I hope you enjoy this, because we're about to talk some more about it. So here's the poem. It says, and did his feet in ancient time walk upon England's mountain green? And was the holy Lamb of God in England's pleasant pastures seen? And did the countenance divine shine forth upon our clouded hills? And was Jerusalem builded here among those dark satanic mills? That was a lot, okay? Quote, perhaps there is some truth in the strange tradition which still lingers not only among the hill folk of Somerset, but of Gloucestershire, that St. Joseph of Arimathea, I think you guys said how to spell it. Hold on, you told me. No, that was a different one, okay. Came to Britain first as the metal merchant seeking tin from Sicily Isles and Cornwall, the lead and copper and other metals from the hills of Somerset, and that our Lord himself came with him as a boy. There's also a tradition in Ireland that our Lord came to Glastonbury as a boy, unquote. The Celtic king Arvigarus, the direct ancestor of Queen Helena, and thus the Emperor Constantine, was the old friend of Joseph, and he memorialized his friendship by donating to the infant church at Glastonbury, the land on which it was built. There can be very little doubt that Joseph was well known in ancient Britain. Ancient Britain, thank you. Why is my hair doing weird things today? Can you relax? Like, please. Like, just relax, okay? Like, it's like hurting my brain a little bit. Relax. Okay. It says, there can be very little doubt that Joseph was well known in ancient Britain, and that he left more than mere memories and traditions behind him is attested by the fact that the Celtic king Arthur in the 6th century claimed to be in direct descent from Joseph of Arimathea. It is also significant that the Celtic Christian knights, beginning with King Arthur, invariably carried the likeness of the Virgin on their shields. And at the Battle of Castle Gunyan, according to Nienius, Arthur carried on his shoulders into battle, quote, an image of Saint Mary the Ever Virgin, unquote. But was this image of Mary, quote, the Ever Virgin, unquote, or rather was it the image of the Eternal One, the Ever Goddess of the ancient Celts? Wild hair equals wild witchy woman. You know what, Rebel Child? You are right about that. But that is all for that chapter. So I loved that. That was pretty much basically insinuating that, like, you know, the goddess worship was so, like, heavily rooted in human culture and so heavily rooted in the ancient world that when Christianity was, you know, on the rise and, you know, being spread throughout the medieval world, people were hesitant to accept it, especially the Celtic people, according to this book. because the great goddess worship had been so fundamental, right? So the reality is that it seems that had it been not for Mother Mary and the exception of her in Christianity and in the sacred places and in, you know, like the imagery and in the stained glass windows and as statues and on the altars and stuff, Christianity might not have taken such a good deep root had it not been for the power of Mother Mary and the drawing of the Eternal Virgin or the Virgin Mother. So I think it's very interesting. That reminds me of the movie The Wild Witch. I don't know why. I don't know if I've seen that movie, but it sounds like a good watch. Okay. Chapter 16, Part 4, Women in the Middle Ages. If Christianity turned the clock of general progress back 1,000 years, it turned back the clock 2,000 years for women. Well, trigger warning, because that sucks. Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm not ready. I just have to really get cozy in this one because I'm just feeling it, Mr. Krabs. I'm feeling it, okay? I'm just really feeling it today. Okay. Ready? Also, if you take into account the ideas that beings like Jesus and Mother Mary are infinite beings, both assumption stories could have happened. You know? That's a pretty good take. I like that idea. It says, let's try again. If Christianity turned the clock of general progress back 1,000 years, it turned back the clock 2,000 years for women. The churchmen deprived her of her place in and before the courts, in the schools, in art, in literature, and society. They shut her mind from knowledge, and they chained her to the position into which they had thrust her. Margaret Sanger. Dang, that's a really shitty way to open up a... It's a really shitty way to open this up. Alright guys, major trigger warning. This one might be hard to get through. This section is called Domestic Chastisement. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Okay, quote, last of all, but by no means least, in the heart of the country of the people, the Pagyi retained their love of the old festivals, the worship of their gods and goddesses of field and fold. They loved the old ways and were content to leave the new religion to the cities, unquote. But the ubiquitous church would not let them be content with the old ways, any more than it had let the Roman Senate, quote, remain undisturbed in its error, unquote. Everyone must be baptized with the blood of the Lamb. Everyone, Celtic peasant and Roman senator, must conform to the harsh new morality and participate in the new barbarism. Everyone must be baptized in the blood of the Lamb. No judgment if you need a stuffy. Yeah, we actually might. We might need one. Men were exhorted from the pulpit to beat their wives and wives to kiss the rod that beat them. Bruh. 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 Ah, yes, because forced conversions always went well. Hashtag sarcasm. Yeah, I'm gonna need to just take a drink for that. No, I do not approve. I do not approve. Nope. It said, in medieval theological manual known in the British Museum under the word castigare, the example for its use is given as, quote, a man must castigate his wife and beat her for her correction, for the Lord must punish his own, as is written in Gratian's Decretum, unquote. Gross. Quote, the unnatural restraint of the woman in medieval illustrations, unquote, writes Erges Manson, quote, was induced by the lavish compulsion of the rod. Parents trained their children with blows, and husbands scattered the like seeds of kindness on their wives. Okay, so it's giving domestic violence has its root in Christian teachings. I got my axolotl plush at the ready. I might have to grab my axolotl plush too because I also have one. Let's see. I honestly might have to like change because it's like really cold in here. Like freezing. It says, let's see. The deliberate teaching of domestic violence. Oh wow. What did I just say? What did I just say? I literally said Christianity might be responsible for the root of domestic violence. And guess what? Guess what? Yeah, trigger warning, domestic violence. Yeah, guess what? It literally says the deliberate teaching of domestic violence combined with the doctrine that women by nature could have no human rights had taken such a hold by the late Middle Ages that men had come to treat their wives worse than their beasts. My dragon plushies in arm's reach, yeah, honestly. Rose candle going for this beautiful night. Honestly, I might have to go burn a candle too, because what the fuck am I reading? Anyway, wife beating at the church's instigation had become so popular by the 15th century that even a priest was moved to protest. Bernardo of Siena in 1427 suggested in a sermon that his male parishioners might practice a little restraint in the punishment of their wives and treat them with at least as much mercy as they treated their hens and their pigs. Lance of Dance, they're teaching domestic violence because that's how you assert your dominance over somebody who's naturally more dominant than you. Women's nature is not to submit to a man. It's not. And I'm sorry if some of you guys still subscribe to that ideal. It's a Christian construct. Like, bummer. I know. But like, we're not supposed to submit to our husbands. That is totally a Judeo-Christian ideal. And like, that is such a Judeo-Christian ideal, it's not even in Islam. Do you understand? Like, nowhere in the Quran does it say that a woman is supposed to submit to her husband like that. Like, it's not like that, you know? I just felt the need to say that, which is why, like, in these Judeo-Christian teachings, domestic violence became a tool to basically beat the women into subservience of the men so they wouldn't rise up and become the wild witchy women that they are. They wouldn't take their power. They made themselves small. You know? Dominant women excite me. Hell yeah. Claim back your sovereignty. Exactly. Some decolonized Mexicans link the Guadalupe Virgin to Tonantzin. I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce that. Tonantzin, which is a goddess of the earth, and Nahuatl, Nahuatl beliefs. Very interesting. It's the same for Celtic. Yeah, no dragon yet, except my cat, according to Pickle Chips. I love cats. They really are dragons. I'm so serious. Okay. It says, okay. Where am I? It says, quote, you men, oh my God, literally, okay. Quote, you men have more patience, unquote, he said. Quote, with the hen that befouleth thy table, but layeth a fresh egg daily, than with thy wife, when she bringeth forth a little girl. O madman, who cannot bear with a word from their wife, who beareth such fine fruit, but forthwith taketh thy staff, and will beat her. Dost thou not see the pig again, squealing all day, and always befouling thy house? Yet thou bearest with him? Yet seeing thy wife perchance less clean than thou wouldest see her, smiteth her without more ado. Consider the fruit of the woman, and have patience. Not for every cause is it right to beat her, unquote. Even the well-meaning Bernardo did not consider the woman as a person worthy of respect for her own sake. Quote, consider the fruit of the woman, unquote, he said. Woman was a breeder, a sex object, a slave, unworthy of her keep. Worthy of her keep, okay. Woman is a breeder. Woman was a breeder, a sex object, a slave worthy of her keep. Under late medieval law, in effect, in Christian Saxony, any squireman of his domains who displayed pride and self-respect. Anyone? So if I was walking, any man could just beat me the hell down. Euphemistically called, quote, immodesty, unquote, in the law. Oh, okay. So is that where immodesty in modern times, where it associates immodesty in modern times with dress, right? Right? But in these times, under law, immodesty was considered a woman who had too much pride and self-respect. Thought the idea of being submissive was degrading. Absolutely, Tiffany Milburn. Welcome back to your Daily Dose Dragon Feather, by the way. I really wish my hair would chill today. I don't know why. What's going on? I love your headscarf. The color is so pretty. Thank you so much, Christy. It says, quote, "The same affront is shameful and inflicted on honest women, tradesmen's wanting to show overmuch spirit, whom the men wish to humiliate," unquote, writes Michelet. Okay. Okay. So it was a hate crime. When a male man saw a woman be too proud of herself, walking too tall, with too much dignity, he brought it upon himself to be. Last time I checked, that sounds like a hate crime. It sounds like the only reason why she was attacked is because she was a what? A woman. Bullshit. Much bullshit going on in this book. Okay. It says, "The lord of the manor, with his household of men, considered the woman of his feudal realm for every outrage." What? Fair game for every outrage? Quote, "Men at arms, pages, serving men, knights formed hunting parties? They're playing and outraging, beating, and making women cry." I'm just gonna let you guys know now there's still a lot of men who take joy. They find it sport to bully women online. The French court was convulsed with mirth, quote, to hear the Duke of Lorraine describe how he and his men raided villages, ravishing, torching, and killing every woman, old woman included. Before the village church stands a lady, quote, proudly dressed in fine green robe and two-peaked coif. Milford draws a poignard, and with a single slash of a sharp blade slits the green robe from neck to feet. The half-naked lady is near fainting at the cruel outrage. The lord's retainers, one and all, dash forward to hunt the prey. Swift and merciless fall the lashes. The poor lady stumbles, falls, screaming shrilly. But the men are remorseless and whip her to her feet again, unquote. Trigger warning, guys. All the way to her own doorstep they pursue her with their whips, and she falls bleeding and faint against her door. But her husband has locked and barricaded the door against her, and he cowers shamefully within, unwilling to interfere with the milord's sport. Not even the own husbands in medieval times would stand up for the women. Yeah, this book is making me cry too. Love to all the clan, women or not, you have mamas. Oof, yeah, I know, rebel child witchery. This one's really difficult to stomach. As Michelet points out in his Origines, the above episode was of daily occurrence in the Middle Ages. Daily occurrence? It was a form of punishment that any man could inflict on any woman who displayed pride and self-assurance. One can easily imagine the gleam in an avenging male's eyes and the smirk on his brutal face as he inflicts his punishment on women. Okay. Hi, Mystic Arrows. Welcome to your daily dose of dragon feather. I need a break. Give me 2 seconds. That was just too much, okay? Like, I just can't even believe you guys. Like, I just need to like take 2 seconds to myself to like get it together. Cause what the fuck, man? What the crap, dude? Like, I'm also pretty cold right now, so I'm just kind of getting myself situated. So I'm off camera. But yeah, guys, like. What the heck does that even mean, my friends? Like, this is so messed up. Like, I can't even believe half the things that I'm reading in this book. Like, I literally don't even know what to say. Like, I genuinely don't even know what to say. Like, it's literally that disturbing. And, like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I'm just exhausted. Okay. Sorry, guys, I'm almost done. I'm almost done with my bullshit. Over here. Brother, sister. Okay. We need love Somebody please leave cat emojis in the chat, okay? There's a lot going on today. We need some cat emojis in the chat. All right, cat emojis for the win, my friends. For the win. Okay? All right, back. Let me just... I almost took the dragon down with me. Hold on. We almost took our homie down with us. Sorry, brother. Sorry, brother, sister. Okay. I'm back. I'm cozy now. Okay. All right. Yes, leave the cats. Is this the PP&B? Yes, it is. Lance of Dance. This stuff shows up on repeat in different eras and different cultures. Yeah, of course it does. Shame on all the disgusting husbands, honestly. I already cried for an hour today. Ugh, I know. This one's such a hard book, brother. I've done so much transmuting. I know of lifetimes where things were so harsh. Even with the transmuting, my current situation is luxury in comparison. 100%. 100%, Heather. Excuse me. It's literally so exhausting. Like, so exhausting. I think part of the reason why I'm, like, anxious to do past life regressions is just because of the trauma. I really feel that. Okay? The squires and noblemen of the Middle East were no more reluctant to beat their own wives than to beat their serfs and the common women of their baronies. A moral tale told in medieval times and preserved by Geoffrey de la Tour de Landry for the instruction of his daughters points out the wickedness of a nagging wife. Quote, "Here is an example to every good woman that she suffer and endure patiently, nor strive with her husband, nor answer him before strangers, as did once a woman who did answer her husband before strangers with short words, and he smote her with his fist down to the earth, and then with his foot he struck her in her visage and brake her nose, and all her life after she had her nose crooked, the which so shent spoiled and disfigured her visage after, that she might not for shame show her face, it was so foul blemished. And this she had for her language that she wont to say to her husband, and therefore the wife ought to suffer and let the husband have the words and to be master, and that is her duty," unquote. Sounds like these people had some serious anger issues, yeah, honestly. I hot share 3 times, sorry, Heather. No, it's okay. Don't blame you one bit. Yeah, honestly, I need like 1 million therapists, probably. The peasants followed faithfully the example set by their lords. There is a record preserved of a serf who beat his wife severely every morning before going to the field, in order, he said, that she would be so busy all day weeping and nursing her injuries that she would have no time or inclination for gossip. That is so fucked up. Oh my gosh. Okay. The church approved these methods of keeping women in subjection and only advised the abused wives to try and win their husband's goodwill by increased devotion and obedience, for meek submissiveness was the best way to dispel a husband's displeasure. No, it is not. No, it is not. Oh my God, we all know. We all know that they are encouraging a fawning response. Disgusting. Rousseau in the 18th century was still giving wives the same advice. Unfortunately, this habit of looking upon women as creatures apart without the same feelings and the same capacity for suffering that men have became so inbred in the thought of the Middle Ages that it has not yet been eradicated. Like how when I go get my IUD inserted or removed, I don't get pain medication. But if a man goes into the doctor and says, "Oh my God, I'm in pain," they get anything they want. Very angry. This book makes me very angry. Okay. It says, most men today still feel that women can stand more pain, more humiliation, and more disdain than men can, and male judges and doctors are still more willing to let them. Yeah. Next to beating, dear God, the most prevalent form of approved punishment was hair pulling. Are you kidding me? Do you know how egregious that is? In convents and monasteries, it was the rule that there should be no form of physical chastisement for novices and oblates except beating with rods and pulling of hair. Yeah, trigger warning, violence against women for sure. Quote, be it known, unquote, decreed the customal of the Abbey of Bec, quote, that this is all their discipline, either to be beaten with rods or that their hair should be stoutly plucked, unquote. Berthold Frere of Rosenberg, or Regensburg, in the 13th century, exhorted husbands whose wives were wont to dress their hair, quote, with crimple crispings here and Christy crosties there, unquote, to put it out, quote, tear the headdress from her, seriously, unquote. She admonished his male parishioners, quote, even though her own hair should come away with it, do this not thrice or 4 times only, unquote, he advised, quote, and presently she will forbear, unquote. One would think, so sincere after thrice or 4 times, she could have had but little hair left to dress. Just because they can theoretically tolerate pain, it doesn't mean they should have to. Yeah. Literally. That's why I not even worry per se, but I have so much knowing about future stuff, at least thinking of it. I don't have time to do so-called doctors to discount my intuition. Yeah. Heather, I feel the same way. I just get really, really bad experiences at the doctors. And I'm not saying that to, like, encourage people not to go to the doctors. Like, I'm just saying, like, this has been my experience, right? Like, it's unfortunate. A grim and gruesome playfulness was not entirely unknown to the young married couples of the medieval world. Sir Thomas More reports a 15th century case of a woodsman who was chopping wood on the village green where many of the villagers had gathered to watch him work and to pass time of day. The repartee was brisk and clever. Jokes followed fast on each other's heels, and the laughter was merry. All this jollity brought the woodchopper's wife out to join the fun. When her good man had laid down his axe, the good wife playfully knelt and laid her head on the chopping block. And her good husband playfully chopped it off. What did I just read? What? What did he do? Playfully and chopped it off should not be in the same sentence. I'm just gonna playfully chop off the thugging, like, Republican Party. I didn't say it. No, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. That guy didn't deserve the title husband. Yeah, I understand. I don't want to be associated with other men. I'm so sorry. I really feel serious. This is so bad. Oh my God. Why? Why men? Why men? Why do men? Okay. When questioned by the bishop as to the reason for his grisly joke on his wife, the woodchopper explained that his wife had long been deserving of punishment because she had been a, quote, scold, unquote. As proof of his allegation, witnesses to the head chopping testified that even after the poor woman's head had rolled boldly from the body, quote, they heard the tongue babble in her head and call villain, villain twice, after her head was severed from her body, unquote. No, what the fuck? If this is too much for you guys, please, you are more than welcome to leave. I understand that this is a lot. This is a lot. This testimony proved the husband's claim of provocation, since, of course, any woman whose tongue automatically called her husband names after death had inconstantly been a scold in life. Sir Thomas does not say whether the woman's small children witnessed their mother's head rolling playfully from the blade of their father's axe. Why is the word playfully in here? There's nothing playful about this. What? This sounds like the plot line of a horror movie. But it was real. The wood chopper, needless to say, was completely exonerated by the bishop. Oh, dear Lord. Dear Lord. There was only one dissenter among the witnesses for the defense, however, quote, only one, and that was a woman who said she heard the tongue not, unquote. But since she was only a woman, her testimony was disregarded by the bishop. Oh, brother, sister. The next section. Trigger warning. Ribald priest and Baudely Ferrar, Francois Rebellius, Giovanni Boccaccio, and Marguerite of Navarre. Oh goodness, these are some very difficult names. His name is Marguerite. Marguerite of Navarre are fertile sources for tales of the crimes against women perpetuated by the churchmen of the Middle Ages, and it is revealing that to Rebellius and Boccaccio that these true episodes are comic, while to the Queen of Navarre they are tragic. Quote, it hath been shown, unquote, wails Alicia in the Decameron, quote, in sundry of the foregoing stories, how much we women are exposed to the lustful importunities of the priests and clergy of every kind, unquote. And indeed, women were in double jeopardy, for if they succumbed to the clergyman's desires, they were apt to be killed by their husbands, and if they refused, they were liable to be reported as heretics and end their lives roasting in a slow fire at the stake. Quote, moreover, unquote, wrote Pertus Cantor in 1190, quote, certain honest matrons refusing to consent to lasciviousness of priests have been written by such priests in the book of death, and accused as heretics and condemned to the fire, unquote. So when a woman asserted her sovereignty, not wanting a husband, not wanting to be a part of the church, none of that, she was condemned to death. The witch hunts were not witch hunts. They were woman hunts. The witch hunts were to murder women. It was to subjugate women and to literally make anyone who would ever rise up against it think twice. Oh, I'm so mad. Okay. Women were burned with remarkable lack of computation throughout the Middle Ages. If statistics were kept, they have been very successfully concealed. But evidence indicates that the proportion of women to men who were burned alive from 800 to 1800 was as much as 10,000 to 1. Men were sometimes burned as heretics after having been mercifully strangled to death, but women were burned alive on countless pretexts: for threatening their husbands, for talking back or refusing a priest, for stealing, for prostitution, for adultery, for bearing a child out of wedlock, for permitting sodomy, even though the priest or husband who committed the sodomy was forgiven, for masturbating, for lesbianism, for child neglect, for scolding and nagging, even for miscarrying, even though the miscarriage was caused by a kick or a blow from the husband. Oh my God, have mercy on women. God, please have mercy on women. We fucking deserve it. We read in the old chronicles of women, in the last weeks of pregnancy, being burned until the heat burst their bellies and propelled... I'm not going to read that. All I'm going to say is that they showed no remorse for the little one. Hold on, I'm just scanning this to see what I can read, because a lot of this I can't read. We read of the little daughters of burnt women being forced to dance with bare feet 100 times through the smoldering stake, through their mother's ashes, and through the still glowing embers, in order to, quote, impress upon them the memory of their mother's sins, unquote. And all of this in an age when the only law of the land was the law of the church, when civil courts were merely the agents of the Christian hierarchy. This is so morbid in her. Yeah, thank you for the fairy sparkle trigger warning, dear lord. Yeah, graphic description of feminine torment. That is very good trigger warning. Quote, the most sly, dangerous, and cunning bawds are your canafish priests, monks, Jesuits, and Fariars. Okay, so this one says capital Jesuits, not sure what that is, and then Friars, unquote, wrote Robert Burton in the 17th century. Quote, for under cover of visitation, auricular confession, comfort, and penance, they have free egress and regress. Corrupt God only know how many, and corrupt God knows how many women. Okay. Women cannot sleep in their beds for necromantic virus? Necromantic virus? Why can't I say that word? Do you guys know what that word is? I should probably look it up. It's actually really bothering me. Let's see. What does this word mean? I don't know. See, this is why I recommend everybody should read, because I'm literally learning words right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really that easy. Friars, deaf. Let's see. A member of a certain religious order of men, especially the four mendicant orders, Augustinians, Carmelitites, Dominicans, and Francians. Okay. From Old French, frere, from Latin, frater. Oh, okay, so it means like brother. Okay. That makes sense. Proteus-like, they go abroad in all forms and disguise to intricate and beguile young women and to have their pleasure of other men's wives. Disgusting. Jesuits. Okay. Hello, DeForest. Welcome back to your daily dose of dream. We are reading the book, the spicy book. It's really bad. Trigger warning, of course. What else did you expect? Okay, it says, howsoever in public they pretend much zeal and bitterly preach against adultery and fornication, there are no varrier bawds or whoremasters in the country, unquote. Bearing out Burton's summoning up of priestly morality are such facts of history that Pope Joan VII in the 10th century kept a harem in the very Vatican itself. No way, brother. It says, and Pope John VIII, quote, found nunneries as amusing to visit as brothels, unquote. Why are they like this? Why are they like this? At the Synod of London in 1126, the Vatican's representative, Cardinal Giovanni and Cremona, eloquently denounced fornication in the ranks of the clergy, and the same night was surprised in bed with a prostitute. In 1171, Clermabald, abbot of Canterbury, openly boasted that he had 17 bastards in one parish alone, and that Bishop of Liège fathered 14 illegitimate children in his diocese in the space of 20 months. Brother Sambulance, a Franciscan monk of Parma, in 1221 warned his young niece of, quote, the common habit of confessors who take their little penance behind the altar in order to copulate with them, unquote. Gross. Gross. The same monk recounts a true story of a lady who confessed to a priest that she had been forcibly assaulted by a stranger in a lonely spot, and, quote, the priest, excited by her confession, dragged his weeping penitent behind the altar and took advantage of her himself, unquote. Trigger warning, sexual assault. This book is trying really, really hard. Don't you love how we had like a happy little Mary chapter, and then we're like, all right, into the awful shit. Yeah, this book sucks. Okay. as did the next tomb priest to whom she confessed. Oh, dear God, it gets worse. Something similar happened to my grandmother when she went to a confession. Brings back my anger of hearing about that several years ago. Oh my God, DeForest, I'm so deeply sorry that even to this day in your family does this shit continue. I used to not believe in hell. But reading this book really makes me hope it exists. Bishop Favento bribed his little parishioners, the small girls of his diocese, to lie in bed with him, quote, where he contemplated and did stuff with them until daylight hours on end, decorating them with coins, which the girls, on being released from the old guy's bed, were allowed to keep. How could it get worse? I've already known it once. It's gonna get worse. How many more pages do I have left of this damn chapter? I don't know how much I can do. There's so many pages left in this one. What do I do? It's so bad, you guys. Okay. The depravity of the clergy was well known to the hierarchy, yet their crimes were overlooked and their inviolable sanctity was protected. Quote, albeit the life of many clerics be full of crimes, unquote, decreed Saint Bernardo in the 15th century, quote, yet there resideth in them a holy and vulnerable authority. I'm sorry, what did you say? Yet there resideth in them a holy and venerable authority, unquote. No. Because it was a married man that did it to her. Oh my God, DeForest. So fucking pissed off. This Bishop of Orleans, when he had taken advantage of the small daughter of a prominent knight of his diocese, was absolved of guilt by his superiors, even though the knight himself had reported the conduct to Rome. In Brussels in the 13th century, a poor girl was ordered on a walking pilgrimage barefoot to Rome as penance for having reported a priest who had assaulted her. Oh dear Lord, give me the strength to finish this. Karina Capucci, I am letting you know right now, this chapter is so bad. So many trigger warnings right now, like for graping, for sexual assault, for just depravity, for pedophilia. Like it just doesn't get good. Run, Karina, this chapter is bad. Yeah, actually, Nightmare, I'm gonna agree with you on that one. Run. Everybody should run. It's bad. Yeah, no. The Sanity Thomas à Becket, when a priest was brought before him for assaulting and murdering a young girl, simply had the guilty priest transferred to another parish. Please let hell be real for these people. Thank you. The priest went unpunished for the graping and seduction, even though the victim might be punished with death by her husband with the full sanction of the law and the church. By contrast, in pagan Rome, in the reign of Tiberius, two, quote, pagan, unquote, priests, perhaps Hebraic and perhaps Christian, were crucified for seducing a Roman matron, while the matron was held entirely guiltless. Because she did nothing wrong. Josephus, the Jewish reporter of this incident, cites it as an example of the Romans' distorted idea of justice. The precedent for the Christian idea of justice for women is to be found in the Old Testament Book of Judges, 1923 FF, where the story is told of, quote, a certain Levite, unquote, visiting in Gibeah, one who is beset by a group of sodomists. Quote, they be at the door and spake to the master of the house, saying, bring forth the man that came into thy house, that we may know him. And the master of the house went out to them and said unto them, nay, brethren, do not do so wickedly, seeing this man is my guest. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them I will bring out, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good to you. But unto this man do not so vile a thing. So the man took his concubine, and brought her forth unto them, and they knew her, and abused her all night until the morning, when they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawning of the day, and fell down dead at the door of the house where her Lord was. How am I going to get through this damn chapter? This one might be the hardest chapter so far. Holy crap. By way of justification for the brutality of women, priests cited the Bible, both the New and Old Testaments. Proverbs 9:13 and 30:16 and 21 were very popular, but the course Paul's epistles, especially 1 Corinthians 2 and Ephesians 5, as well as the 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy, were considered the best points of departure for the anti-feminist sermon. Eve was presented over and over again as the source of all evil, the sinful creature who had brought sorrow to the whole world by disobeying her husband. Jezebel's horrible death and the consumption of her body by curs was offered as an example of what would happen to women who might seek to influence their husbands. Delilah's betrayal of Samson was presented to husbands as a warning not to trust or confide in their wives. That says a lot about Christian views and pagan views. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Oh my gosh. Thank the Lord that I have a man who loves to hear what I have to say. Who loves to confide in me. I cannot even imagine. Holy crap, this is so dark. Chastity and virginity and the importance of their preservation were preached from the pulpit, but many a virgin went to the fiery stake for obeying these very exonerations. Ralph of Coggeshall tells the story of one such virgin, and he tells it without indignation at the cruel injustice done to the virtuous maiden. In the days of Louis VII of France, from 1137 to 1180, the Archbishop William of Reims was riding one day outside the city, attended by his clergy, when one of the latter, Gervase of Tilbury, saw a fair maid and rode aside to speak to her. After a few brief pleasantries, he suggested, quote, amour, unquote, and the virgin blushing replied, quote, nay, good youth, God forbid that I should be your leman. For if I were to be defiled and lose my virginity, I should suffer eternal damnation, unquote. The poor innocent, unused to the double talk of the clergy, was probably only prating what she had been taught in church. But the archbishop, coming from that moment and seeing the angry disappointment on Gervase's face, took the girl's refusal as insolent defiance of her betters. After all, what would happen if all young women took their chastity seriously and refused their favors to the clergy? What would become of priestly pleasures? Hell was made for abusive people, and I just have to believe it or I will kill someone. This is for entertainment purposes only. Sorry, I have to say that these days. I don't know why. Anyway, the girl still refusing after the archbishop's intervention, the latter ordered that she be carried with the party back to Reims, where she was predictably accused of heresy, quote, no persuasion, unquote, continues Ralph the chronicler, quote, could recall her from her foolish obstinacy, wherefore she was burned to death, to the admiration of many who marked how she uttered no sighs, no tears, no laments, but bore bravely all the torments of the consuming flames, unquote. That's what I want to know, Nightmare Fuel Studios. I just unfortunately have to say that, like, on my channel because of just some certain things I'm dealing with in the back end of my life. I don't want to say it. I don't want to have to say it, but I'm doing it because I'm being recommended to do it by the people who are managing me, so. Same Zura, and two of them at that, the part about having a true person to understand you. Yeah, I know, Heather, for real, like, they basically made a no-win situation because, yeah, Heather Landon, there was a no-win situation because at the end of the day, these men who were running the church like this and running the you know, life like this, or society like this, just were abusive people. They wanted to hurt people, and they were going to find any way to get it. They wanted to hurt people, and they wanted to have access to whoever they wanted whenever they wanted. And their egos were so big that if you so much as even breathed in a wrong way that offended them, it would cost you your life. It was going to cost you your life. Trigger warning, the next section is called The Cruel Destruction of Women. So I'm just gonna let you know right now, this is so hard to get through. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to read all of the next part of this section because it's just so messed up. But basically, trigger warning for every like horrible thing that can happen to a woman. Gotta feel it to heal it. Cliche but imperative today. Yeah, no, 100%. You know, and like, part of the reason why like my dragon guardians are telling me to read this book, and probably why I think I don't think I can stay here anymore. I know, Nightmare, it's so bad. I will miss you though. I will say though that we are really close to finishing this chapter. We only have 4 pages left, and then we're gonna learn about some amazing women from medieval times like Joan of Arc. So there is a really good what's it called, there's a good ending to today. Okay, so if you would like to tough it out with me for these next 4 pages, I am so excited to talk to you guys about Joan of Arc, and I'm excited to talk to you about the social reformers, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about all of that, because this next chapter after this one, that we're in the worst chapter right now, because the rest of the chapters are taking a turn towards the women of today and just like gaining back our power. Okay, so we must share dragon guardians. I was watching you from 4 or 5 years ago, Heather. That's so crazy. Thank you for continuing to watching. That's like so amazing to me. Like, I literally wouldn't be able to do any of this without you guys clicking on my videos. So part of the reason why my dragon guardians tell me to read this, and why I know that my dragon guardians ended up leading me to this book, because this book ended up finding me. I didn't purchase this book, it found me. Yeah, you know, part of it is remembering. You know, you can't heal without remembering, in a way. And I think in order for us to move forward from the state of the world with how bad it is right now, we need to understand how we got here, you know? So I hope that makes sense. Martin S., welcome back to your Daily Dose of Dragon. We're reading the very spicy book, major trigger warning. The next chapter is called The Cruel Destruction of Women. Trigger warning for every bad thing that can be done to a woman. I'm pretty sure it's in this chapter, so take a deep breath. I can tell this is tough and it's horrible, but I'm going to stick with you. Awesome, let's do it together, Tiffany. Ready? It says, the Christian evaluation of women as expendable sexual conveniences was adopted with varying degrees of enthusiasm by laymen to whose ancestors the doctrine would have been incredible. Sir John Arundel in 1379, on his way to the war in France, raided a convent at Southampton and carried off 60 young nuns to provide recreation for his men during the campaign. Trigger warning. Trigger warning, grape. Graping started immediately aboard the ships, but a storm springing up in the England Channel in order to lighten the ships, Undril had all the wretched captives thrown overboard. Into the raging torrent of the sea, where they all drowned. I really meant that trigger warning, you guys. Lest this outrage be brushed off as a uniquely medieval atrocity, be it unknown that the 19th century of the American crew of a U.S. merchant ship, Pindos, treated some 50 Polynesian women and girls in the same fashion. After the crew had their fill of them on board the ship, the girls were thrown overboard into the Pacific Ocean. Our United States merchant mariners, however, added a refinement to Arundel's precedent. When the mate one Waden saw that some of the women, expert swimmers that they were, seemed likely to reach the distant safety of Easter Island, quote, he shot them with his rifle, the entire crew cheering him on each time he made a hit, unquote. I can just like feel all of these like women with me right now. How long have these women waited for their stories to be told? How many restless spirits of abused, tortured, tormented women do you think are still hopelessly wandering this earth wishing they had a life like you and me? By the 16th century, even the kindly and feminist Abbé de Brantôme accepted the Christian doctrine of the worthlessness of women and of man's unquestioned right to abuse, torture, and murder them at his pleasure. Yet Brantôme's basic instincts were bothered. Quote, there is much to be said on the matter, which I refrain from setting down, fearing my arguments may be feeble beside those of the great of the church. But however great the authority of the husband may be, what sense is there for him to be allowed to kill his wife, unquote. Then he tells a true story of a knight of his acquaintance, a story that can be compared to horror only to the biblical story of the cowardly Levite. And here's a passage. It says, a certain Albanian knight I knew at the court of Venice, so irked that his wife did not love him, to punish her went to the trouble of seeking out a dozen riotous fellows, all great renters reputed to be well and lavishly fashioned in their parts, and very able and hot in the execution too, hired them for a fee, and locked them in his wife's bedroom, she being very lonely, and left her absolutely in their hands, requesting them to do their duty at it. And they all set upon her, one after another, and so handled her that, in the end, they killed her. That was a terrible sort of death. Okay, deep breath. Santiago Larnus, welcome to your daily dose of dragon feather. I think I'm pagan. I thought I don't really believe in any deities. You don't have to believe in deities to be considered pagan. You know? Let's see. Roccasio's account of Romaldia, Countess of Forli, is so similar to that one is forced to wonder how prevalent this particular form of wife murder might have been in the late Middle Ages. One Cocken recounts Boccaccio had married the Countess Romaldia for her vast property, but not caring to be burdened with her once the property had become his. By right of marriage only, he decided to kill the fair Romaldia. Quote, summoning 12 of his toughest, strongest soldiers, he handed Romaldia over to them to take their pleasure of her, and they spent a night so doing to the best of their ability. And when the day came, he summoned Romaldia to him, and after reproving her sternly for her infidelity and insulting her greatly, he then had her impaled through the privy parts, which she died. Longest fucking page of my life. We have 3 pages left in longest fucking 3 pages of my life. Brantome's gossip stories of a murder and mayhem all concern gentlemen of the French court with whom he was acquainted, but whom he dared not name. No doubt in his more contemporary readers knew of whom he spoke, but to us they remain faceless and unidentified, except for Father Bernardino of the 15th and the Abbé de Brantemere of the 16th century. No man spoke out in defense of women in the Christian era before the late 19th century. The male, however cruel and brutal, was always right, and the church was ever at his side. ready to support him in the vilest crimes against the, quote, lesser, unquote, sex. Quote, the cruel destruction of women in the Middle Ages, unquote, writes Horney, quote, has implications of an underlying anxiety, for women's poses a danger to man, unquote. And, quote, the priest, unquote, writes Michelet, quote, realized clearly where the danger lay, that an enemy, a menacing rival, is to be feared in women, this high priestess of nature he pretends to despise, unquote. Quote, the church has always known and feared the spiritual potentialities of women's freedom, unquote, observes Margaret Sanger. Quote, for this reason, male agencies have sought to keep women enslaved, to use women solely as an asset to the man. Anything which will enable women to live for themselves first has been attacked as immoral, unquote. Was that one page? God, this is painful. Yeah, that was one page. That was one page. And there's 3 left. I'm almost done. By the 12th century, writes Roger Sherman Loomis, quote, the natural depravity of Eve's daughters was an accepted fact. The woman had become the devil's most valuable ally. She was not only inferior, she was vicious. As Chaucer wrote in The Wife of Bath, it is impossible that any cleric wool speaketh good of wives. That is, the churchmen of the Middle Ages even exceeded their model. St. Paul, in their violent hatred of women, is frighteningly evident in all their writings that have come down to us. John Nider, a distinguished Dominican of the 15th century, describes without any observable decree of compassion or remorse the torture of a poor old woman, whose only crime was her mobility. Quote, she often changed her abode, unquote, writes Snyder, quote, from house to house and city to city, and this had gone on for many years, unquote. Supposedly, his mobility smacked to the church of unfeminine independence, an anomaly that could not be tolerated. They put a watch on the unsuspecting old lady, and finally one day in Resinberg, that for which they had hoped and waited came to pass. In the hearing of their spy, quote, she uttered certain incautious words concerning the faith, on which she was immediately accused before the car and clapped into prison, unquote. On being questioned by the inquisitor, who was none other than Father Nider himself, quote, she answered very astutely to every objection made to her, and stated that she refused obedience to the Pope in matters which he had ill disposed, unquote. One wishes that Nider had seen fit to name these papal errors. Here obviously was a thinking woman, a woman of mental independence and the courage of her convictions, an anomaly despised and feared by the church. For these very reasons, she did not have a chance. It was decided that, quote, she be racked by the torture of public justice, slowly, in proportion as her sex may be able to endure it, unquote. In plain words, Nider ordered that her torture be prolonged as long as possible, as extra punishment for her sex, her independence of mind, and her unwomanly, quote, astuteness, unquote. Her age was not considered an ameliorating factor. Quote, having been tortured for a while, unquote, goes on Nider complacency, quote, she was much humbled by the vexation of her limbs, wherefore she had brought back to her prison tower, where I visited her that same evening. She could scarce stir for pain, unquote, says the good father with righteous satisfaction. Quote, but when she saw me, she burst into loud weeping and told me how grievously she had been hurt, unquote. When the good inquisitor, quote, induced many citations from the Holy Scripture to show how frail is the female sex, unquote. And after he had threatened her with further torture, the poor old woman, quote, declared herself ready to revoke her error publicly and to repent, unquote, which as soon as she was able to walk again, she did, quote, before the whole city of Resenberg, unquote. Thus were, quote, pagans, unquote, attracted to the banner of Christ and encouraged to adopt Christianity in the Middle Ages. Yet children were taught in school, even today, to believe that the Christian religion brought mercy and enlightenment and justice to a world where people had formerly lived in darkness and heathendom. They are taught to believe that Christianity saved the world from barbarism, yet it actually created a barbaric culture such as the Western world had never seen before. And most heinous of all, it found Western women free and independent, revered, honored, and respected, and had plunged her into an abyss of serf-like hopelessness and despair from which she has not yet been able to extricate herself. As Michael writes, quote, she who from her throne had taught mankind and who had given oracles to a kneeling world is the same woman who 1,000 years later is hunted like a wild beast, reviled, buffeted, stoned, scorched, and with red-hot embers. The clergy has not stakes enough for unhappy women, unquote. Okay, we got through that one. We got through it. That was rough. Okay, we need to take a breather. I need some help. That was a lot. I'm just gonna that chapter's over. Thank the Lords. Thank the Lords. Are you ready to learn about Joan of Arc? I really need it. I really need Joan of Arc to come rescue me right now. Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank the gods. I know that was really, really rough. I think that was probably the last, like, really, really, really grotesque chapter. Because let's see. No, there's still some bad shit. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, ready? Okay. Saint Joan. Oh, sorry. Let me stop. Sorry. I'm a little frazzled from that last chapter. That one really got me good, okay? That was really hard to read. It says, we are in part 4, chapter 17, called Some Medieval Women. How many glorious deeds of womankind lie unknown to fame? Sensia. Pretty sure we all need a group therapy session. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay, I'm actually not sorry. You want to know why? Because, I get so much, religious hate on this channel, and I know that you guys get a lot of religious hate, too, for being witchy. And I'm sure you guys have experienced religious hate in your lifetime, especially if you are a woman, okay? So, the reason why I'm reading this incredibly disturbing, enraging, grotesquing, triggering book is to remind you all that your experiences of today with being hated on for being a witch, anything that has to do with you thinking outside of the Christian doctrine or outside of the status quo, or having the audacity to question authority as a woman, especially as a woman, I should say, I need you to know that, it is a historical relic from a much darker time. Okay? We have to remember this shit before we can heal from it. We can't just sweep this under the rug and then forget this. There's so many women who needs to be acknowledged. Our Joan Nider, the Inquisitor who described, we are in the section St. Joan. Our Joan Nider, the Inquisitor who described so dispassionately the agony of the poor nameless old woman whose limbs he had broken and whose joints he had dislocated on the rack, was once permitted to, quote, question, unquote, Joan of Arc. And here is what he says to her, or says of her. Ready? We're gonna get, I think this is some Joan of Arc slander. Ready? It says, there was lately in France within the last 10 years a maid named Joan, distinguished, as was thought, both for her prophetic spirit and for the power of her miracles. For she always wore man's dress, nor could all the persuasions of the doctors of divinity bend her to put aside these and content herself with woman's garments, especially considering that she openly confessed herself a woman and a maid. Quote, in these masculine garments, unquote, she said, quote, in token of future victory, I have been sent by God to help Charles, the true King of France, and to set him firm upon his throne from the King of England and the Duke of Burgundy are striving to chase him, unquote. For at that time, the two were allied together and oppressed France most grievously with bad slaughter. Joan, therefore, rode constantly like a knight with her lord, predicted many successes to come, but did other like one. Not only France marveled, but every realm and Christendom. At last this Joan came to such of presumption that layfolk and ecclesiastics, regulars and cloisterers began to doubt of the spirit whereby she had, whether it were devilish or divine. And certain men of great learning wrote treatises concerning her, wherein they expressed adverse opinions as to the maid. After she had great help to Charles the king and placed him securely upon the throne, she was taken by God's will and cast in prison. A great multitude were then summoned of masters both in canon and civil law, examined for many days. She at length confessed that she had familiar angel of God, which by many conjectures and proofs, by the opinion of the most learned men, were judged an evil spirit, so that this spirit rendered her a sorceress. Wherefore they permitted her to be burned at the stake by the common hangman. Quote, they permitted her. One supposes from this that the common hangman insisted on burning her at the stake, and that the churchmen and learned men of the canon civil law permitted him to have his way. If a male knight had secured the throne of his rightful king and had confounded that was, quote, oppressing France most grievously with battle and slaughter, unquote, would the common hangman have had his way so easily? One. This book is I know, brother. Chemicals and conversation. Welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. Yeah, the Old Testament is some core stuff. Yeah, honestly, it really is. It really, really is. Well, no man save one rose to the defense of Joan, even the king whose throne and country Joan had secured for him. 2 women did, and were tortured and burned for their trouble. The one exception to the indifference of her male beneficiary, Joan's fate, was the original Bluebeard, the infamous Gilles de Rais. This nobleman had been Joan's lieutenant in her wars against the English, and had devoted a strong and steadfast devotion to her as his leader and captain. He used all his influence to save her from the flames, but at no avail. When he walked away from Joan's fire, his cause lost, he changed into a fiend he is known as history. He was finally arrested for multiple murders after having killed by the most tortures literally hundreds of little girls and little boys for the gratification of his perverted sexual desires. The thing that is interesting about his case is that although he shared the saint's fate of burning at the stake, his death had occurred before the fire was lit, as was the case with all male criminals. He was granted the mercy of strangulation prior to burning, while St. Joan, like all women, was burned, quote, quick, unquote, that is, alive. The actual fuck. Speaking of Discord Rebel Child Witchery, I don't have my Discord set up yet. I'm working on it. I'm still learning on it, learning about like how to do it. But I did recently join another Discord server called what's it called? Called the Dragon Academia. It's led by one of my favorite creators on dragons here. Her name is Merlin. I think it's the Spirit of Alchemy or Alchemy of Spirit. It's one of those. But basically, her description. So if you want to hang out with her, tell like I love the community over there, and some of you guys are actually already over there, so it's super exciting to see you. But if you want to like hang out with like some dragon people, like, we're obsessed with dragons over there, I highly recommend it to go learn about some dragon magic. In the meantime, while I'm trying to get my own Discord up, I would love to see you guys there, and it's like honestly so much fun. So the link is in the description if you'd want to go hang out with me after, because I'll be there after this reading, because I'm gonna need some therapy after that. Hi, I didn't get a chance to catch up on the other live. So is Tiamat God? God is Mary, so Tiamat is Mother Mary. Dragon Flinchy. Yeah, dude. It's kind of all like we kind of like came to the conclusion in the Tiamat God video, like Tiamat is like evolved into Ishtar, and Ishtar evolved into one other name, and then that other name evolved into Lilith. And so it was like somehow Tiamat is Lilith, all of it's connected, right? When in terms of Christianity, like when Mother Mary was introduced, it was essentially kind of like the really solidified Christianity's foothold. The lack of a divine feminine was really Achilles tendon, or the Achilles heel, I should say, of Christianity. And once they basically greenlit, you know, the worship of Mother Mary, Mother of God, that's when Christianity just went whoosh. So here we go. Let's see. Neither voices only one regret in connection with the entire Joan affair, and this was caused by the escape from the power of the Inquisitor a few years later of a maid who claimed the reincarnation of Joan of Arc. Women must have been agitated by the horror of Joan's fate. So many of them seem to have behaved so aberrantly, so like a flight of doves when one of their number had been brought bleeding to the ground by the huntsman's arrows. Yet we have no contemporary account by any woman of the time. Reams were written by men and discovered 4 centuries later, all demanding Joan and exulting over her well-deserved fate. Not one line by a woman. The church, almost immediately after Joan's martyrdom, inaugurated an intensive campaign to mythologize her. So successful was this campaign that by the 18th century, Joan had become a semi-mythical character, only partially believed by the general public and vehemently denied by the faithful. It was not until the 19th century, where the actual transcripts of her trial were rediscovered in Paris, that she became generally acknowledged as an actual historical personage she was. Finally, in 1920, 500 years later, after her immolation, the red-faced church reluctantly and in obedience to popular demand canonized her. Please be a better chapter, please be better. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit better, but like, it's not, I don't think it's as bad as the back one. Yeah. Hold on, I'm just like proofreading it. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not seeing too many like there's some really like fucked up things here and there, but it's not like every word on the page is triggering. Okay, we're good. Oh, I was asked to do a school project on Joan. It was a topic of choice. I chose her. Yay! Yeah, Joan is the fucking Pope Joan. The attempted relegation of Arc to the realm of myth recalls another Joan, who has been successfully mythologized by her church, the Pope Joan. Successful indeed has the church been in its Pope Joan out of history that the vast majority of people living today have never even heard of a female pope, me included. This is news to me. And to those few who have heard of her, she's an established myth, just as the Catholic Church claims her to be. But is Pope Joan merely a medieval myth? If so, it seems very odd that the Church waited nearly 800 years to declare her. Throughout the long centuries from 855, when she died, to 1601, when she was annihilated and anathematized, Joan was accepted as genuine. Through all these centuries, Catholic encyclopedia, quote, Joanna was a personage whose existence no one doubted, unquote. The church numbered her among the popes as Joan VIII and erected statues to her among the images of the popes at Siena Cathedral and St. Peter's in Rome. It seems that Joan, a, quote, handsome, unquote, young English girl, made her way to Athens disguised as a monk. Quote, in Athens, says the Catholic Encyclopedia, quote, she examined learning that no man was her equal, unquote. Armed with a degree in philosophy, she came to Rome, where the Pope Leo IV made her a cardinal. Upon Leo's death in the year 853, Joan was elected Pope by her fellow cardinals. The Encyclopedia goes on to say, quote, she served as Pope 2 years, 4 months, and 8 days when she was discovered to be a woman and was stoned to death, unquote. was that creator again? Her name is Merlin, Spirit of Alchemy. I'm pretty sure it's Spirit of Alchemy or Alchemy Spirit. Hold on, let me just pull her. She's awesome. And she personally is, you owe her a huge portion to me coming back as soon as I did, is because her content about dragons inspired me so much to create content again. So I really recommend giving her a follow and check out TikTok. Hold on. And I love her to pieces. She's actually one of my friends. So please go give her some love. Let me just hold on. My phone is like so slow. Please load, you stupid shit. Okay, yeah, so alchemy.of.spirit. This is there. Hold on. It's not loading, cause like why would it load? There we go. So that's her channel. Wow, my phone is so blinded. Okay, go ahead and click her where is it? Click the link in her bio. Okay, I know this is kind of annoying. I really want to hang out with you guys in the Discord because it's actually fun. And then on her link, go ahead to the Discord at the bottom. Okay, and then you're gonna go ahead and join the Dragon Academia. It's really fun if it'll load. Wow, low battery, of course. This is what it looks like, okay? So I would love to have you there. We would love to see you. So pretty fun. It's pretty fun if you like dragons. So, and in the meantime, my Discord will come soon. I have spoken to Pope Giovanna. She was no deceitful cross-dresser. Giovanna was a man at heart. Interesting, T. I don't really think that is true. It says, I sent Azura and Rebel Child friend requests on Discord. Hell yeah! I will get back to you as soon as I am off the live. It says, let's see. Legend says that Joan's sex was discovered when she gave birth to a child during papal procession, and that her baby was stoned to death in her arms. Oh my god. Sorry. I should have said trigger warning. I did not know that was gonna happen. I did not. In corroboration of this tradition, the Catholic Encyclopedia says that for a long time during the centuries before 1600, there was a statue in the street where Joan's stoning was believed to have taken place of a figure in papal robes and mitre, holding an infant in her arms. The scripture has been long lost, but for many centuries, the route of papal processions was changed to avoid the street where it had stood. T. Whatever happened, however, the name of Joan VIII, a woman from England, graced the papal list from 855 to 1601. In that year, Pope Clement VIII officially declared Joan mythical and ordered all effigies, busts, statues, shrines, and records of her utterly demolished and her name erased from the papal rolls. It was the jibes and taunts of the German Reformation at the, quote, absurdity, unquote, of a woman pope, says the Catholic Encyclopedia, that influenced Clement to take these extreme measures. It can only be hoped that the Church was as remiss as destroying all records of Pope Joan as it was to be in the case of Saint Joan, or Joan of Arc, and that someday written proof of her existence will be unearthed. There are two unexplained mysteries about the case of Pope Joan that have not been satisfactorily explained by the officials. The first is, where was Pope Joan VIII through all the centuries until 1601? For the Pope Joan, 872 to 882, who is now numbered 8th was for 7 centuries listed as number 9. There was a Pope John VII from 705 to 708, and then more Joans before Leo IV was consecrated in 874. According to the official Annuario Pontifico of the Catholic Church, Benedict III was consecrated in 855, but Leo had died in 853. 2 years before the consecration of Benedict, the Church glosses over this gap by mumbling that Leo lived until 855, but the truth of this statement is easily refuted by anyone with sufficient interest to look up the facts. The next official John to become Pope was John the 6th, or IX. I'm really bad with Roman numerals sometimes. Is that the 9th? John the 9th, I think. In 872, where then was Joan the 8th. And why was Joan the 9th suddenly renumbered the 8th? Then later, Church officially mythologized Joan 700 years later. By that time, there had been no fewer than 14 Pope Joans since John the 9th, and all of them had to move back one number so that John the 20th, 1024 to 1032, became John the 19th, and the number 20 was simply dropped. For the next John, 1276 to 1277, remained John the 18th, and was followed by the John the 21st, and was followed by the 22nd and 23rd before 1600. Then, marvelous to relate, we have another John, oh my god, the 25th in 1958. Does that mean that Annulare Pontifico has quietly moved them all back one notch to fill up the vacancy of John the 20th, who was left out in the first go-around? The second unexplained mystery is that from time to time of Pope Joan, and not before, all candidates for the papacy for 700 years had to undergo a physical examination to prove their sex. Why? The reason given by the Church for this examination is to avoid having a eunuch as a pope. But it is very revealing that the examination went into effect in 855, the year Benedict was elected, and Benedict himself was the first of the popes to submit to the test. If Benedict followed immediately after Leo, as the Church now claims he did, why was no pope prior to Benedict subjected to this examination? It could only be Benedict's immediate predecessor, Joan, who was the cause of this innovation. Pope Joan included by her contemporary Anastasius, and librarian in his Lives of the Popes. Other references to her were not completely expunged by the general, quote, dump Joan, unquote, campaign of the 17th century. She is listed as an actual person and a historical pope in the writings of Marianus Scotus in the 11th century, and Otto of Freising, Gottfried of Viterbo, Martinus Polonus, William of Ockham, Thomas Elmham, John Huss, Guillermus Jacobus, and Stefan Blanche all include her in their papal stories of the next 4 centuries as a genuine pope. Joan Lorenz von Moschheim, in his Ecclesiastical History, written in the 16th century, just prior to the official annihilation of Joan, writes, quote, between Leo IV and Benedict III, a woman who concealed her sex and assumed the name of John opened the way, John opened the way of the pontifical throne by learning and genius and governed the church. She is commonly called a papess John. During the 5 subsequent centuries, the witness to this event are without number, nor did anyone prior to the Reformation by Luther regard the thing as either incredible or disgraceful to the church, unquote. Sabine bearing gold of the last century, who wrote the words of the reprehensible militaristic hymn, quote, onward Christian soldiers, unquote, believe that Pope Joan was the Antichrist, quote, I have little doubt myself, unquote, he declares, quote, that Pope Joan is the impersonification of the great whore of Revelation seated on the 7 hills, unquote. Thus is history rewritten by the masculinists. May I ask, is this an egalitarian or female supremacist space? No? No. I can send you my username again. Comment under review. Comment is under review. Let's see. What's this chat doing? Request accepted. Just join. Oh, I'm so excited you guys are joining. Let's see. Yeah, it is some pretty disturbing shit. I ain't gonna lie. I've always thought that the Catholic Church is, at its core, all about power and also very hypocritical. I mean, lots of their saints are literally pagan figures that were given Christian traits. Yes, Santiago Leonares. Anyway, welcome to your daily dose of Dragon Feather, and you're absolutely correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we're all about equality here. But we do like to learn about the actual truth of women here. So that doesn't make it supremacist, okay? Like, learning about the truth of women doesn't make this a supremacist space, okay? I'm a man, and I don't feel as if this is a supremacist space. Santiago Leones? What did you say? I feel as if this is, oh, I cannot read at all. Okay, it says, I'm a man, and I don't feel as if this was a supremacy, as this is a, okay, yeah, thank you. I really try, because like, okay, look, I am a firm believer that any type of supremacy is gonna yield problems, okay? Like, the only supremacy we need is like respectful supremacy. I don't know. Saint Brigid is literally an Irish pagan goddess adopted by the church. No, literally, Nightmare Fuel. Literally. Like, it doesn't get any more legit than that. You know what I mean? I don't know what the hell this word is, so we're gonna have to figure it out together. Here's what the next chapter is called. This is the word. I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm gonna spell it to you guys. It's spelled Gynikomonikodthanasa. I'm gonna try to pronounce this. It says gynecomenonicothanasia. Gynecomeniomonica. Fuck me. I tried. Okay? I tried. The flesh and blood of Christ sounds pretty damn pagan to me. That's what I'm saying, Karina. It's so pagan, right? Like, it totally sounds pagan. Taurus supremacy, we're the witches of the woods. Setting the red, that's so cute. Capricorn supremacy, and we'd rule the woods. Aquarius supremacy, oh my gosh. I'm a little biased for the Aquarius supremacy, but... Okay, I'm gonna continue now. The zeal of the masculine historians and encyclopedists in destroying even the memory of great women, which is the intended meaning of the above word. Okay, so destroying the memory of great women is the word gynecomenonicothanasia. It's like euthanasia for women who are strong. Okay, that's a big word. How many letters is this word? What's your Discord link? I don't have a Discord, my own Discord, but I am hanging out in one of my friends' Discords who has like a dragon Discord. It's linked down below. It's called the Dragon Academia. It's by Merlin, Alchemy of Spirit. She's literally chef's kiss. I adore her. We owe her a huge thank you to inspiring me to get back to this channel a lot sooner than I think I was going to. So shout out to you, Merlin. You're a badass. I love you. Also, her readings, so amazing. I love her readings. Thank you. I love her, okay? I do. Oh, I know this word. Do you know how to pronounce it? Because I literally don't. It's the worship of childbirth. No. It's not the worship of childbirth. It means the gynecomenemonecothanasia, dear God, is the act of destroying even the memory of great women. If that means strong womanesia, fixed it. Thank you, Rebel Child, you fixed it. You guys are so funny. I'm literally always laughing in this chat. No, come back. Stay on my head, please. Stay. Okay. Okay, let's see. My hair is a mess today. It's fine. Where am I? Where am I at in this little silly book I have? All right, where am I at? Okay. Where am I at? Okay. It says, I'll just restart. It says, the zeal of the masculine historians and encyclopedists in destroying even the memory of great women, which is the intended meaning of the above word, has rendered the pursuit of feminine historical research extremely difficult. There are so few names. If the sense of history demands the inclusion of a female, she is referred to merely as somebody's wife or mother or daughter or sister, or is never included in the index. Archaeology has recently revealed the historical existence of one great woman whose names have been as completely wiped from the history books as if they never existed. George Ballard in the 18th century wondered why so many of the great women of England had been overlooked by their historians, while so many lesser men had won lasting places in their country's annals. The oversight is, of course, deliberate. Men have written history not, as Dingwall complains, quote, as if women hardly counted, unquote, but as if women hardly existed. Yet the role of women in molding history and their influence on the events that have shaped man's destiny are incalculable. Scholars are aware of this fact, and yet when they are bound by the necessity for accuracy or logic to include a woman's name in the unfolding of a natural or national event, her name is invariably coupled with a belittling adjective designed not only to put down the woman herself, but to assure their feminine readers that such women are undesirable and, quote, unfeminine, unquote. Thus, that all outstanding women become in history books, quote, viragos, unquote, Boadicea, quote, hussies, unquote, Matilda of Flanders, quote, hysterics, unquote, Joan of Arc, quote, monstrosities, unquote, Timerius, or merely myths, Marcia and Pope Joan. Arnold Toynbee, whose A Study of History a generation ago was accepted as a great work of genius, but which has now been consigned to the dustbin as outmoded, and whose philosophy has been disavowed even by Toynbee himself, voiced that masculist view of great women in that work. In attempting to explain the dominance of women in the Mycenaean culture of Greece, for example, he inadvertently acknowledges the basic equalities of the sexes by explaining that in, quote, socially unorganized age, individualism was so absolute that it overrode the intrinsic differences between the sex, unquote. And this, quote, unbridled individualism bore fruits hardly distinguishable from those of a doctrine feminism, unquote. In short, Toynbee is saying where society has not subjected one sex to the other, the sexes develop equally. Equality of treatment and of self-expression abolish the apparent inequality, quote, the intrinsic differences, unquote, between the sexes. But, of course, this is an undesirable state of affair from the masculist viewpoint. The, quote, a priori logic, unquote, continues Toynbee, of weak women's, quote, inability to hold her own against the physically dominant sex, unquote, is confuted, quote, by the facts of history, unquote. Women were dominant, he admits, but how could this have been? How could feudal weak women ever in any period of history have been dominated by man, the muscular lord of creation? Victorian-minded, biblical-bred Toynbee, a true product of masculist materialism, is pathetically baffled by the conundrum. To Toynbee, women's former dominance can be attributed only to one source, her greater, quote, persistence, vindictiveness, implicability, cunning, and treachery, unquote. He, like the majority of his 19th century educated contemporaries, had learned well the lesson dinned to Western man for nearly 2,000 years of the viciousness of Eve's daughters and of, quote, the absolutely incurable infirmities and inferiority of the female sex, unquote. To quote the revered Scottish English Christian philosopher David Hume, one wonders how such men as Hume and Toynbee could ever have brought themselves to mate with such loathsome creatures. May I ask, are you New Age or, what are you talking about? Can you relax, bro? Relax. Relax, Steve. I'm just a girl who follows her dragons. That's it. Subscribe. Let's see. Emily James Putnam, about 60 years ago, wrote on the ever-current uneasiness of the male in the presence of the insurgent female, unquote. Over 2,000 years ago, the Roman senator Cato warned his fellow senators against the insurgent females of the Republican Rome. Quote, the moment they have arrived at an equality with you, they will become your masters and your superiors, unquote. He stormed. And in the 18th century of our era, the great Dr. Samuel Johnson confided to James Boswell that the reason men denied education to women was that men knew that if women learned as much as they, the men, would be, quote, outmatched, unquote. We just witches here, but yeah, that's pretty much accurate, Rebel Child. Although we really want to, like, make this channel a safe space for all religions and all, like, faiths and practices, but like the only hard boundary we have on this channel is like the second you start saying like my way is right and you are wrong, or saying you're going to hell for what you believe in, that's where we draw the line. That's religious abuse, okay? So we don't appreciate that. Haha, yes, female domination. The departed ocean. Welcome back to your daily dose of dragon feather. Oh, okay, just new to magic. Just trying to figure it out. No worries, T. No worries, my friend. No worries. It says, the basic reason for man's reluctance to admit women to the mysteries of learning is the same fear of, quote, insurgent, unquote, or, quote, resurgent, unquote, woman. If women were to be permitted to roam at will in the paths and bypaths of scholarship, they might uncover man's most closely guarded secret. The fact of woman's greater role in the history of the race and the truth of man's deliberate concealment of that fact. The malicious erasure of women's names from the historical record began 2,000 or 3,000 years ago and continues into our own period. For reference of how it continues into our own period, Einstein got a lot of his wisdom from his wife. I think Nikola Tesla is similar too. Yep. Hope that was enlightening for you guys. Women take as great a risk of anonymity when they merge their names with men in literary collaboration as when they merge in matrimony. The Lynns, for example, devoted equal time throughout the effort of writing The Middletown, but today it is Robert Lynn's book. Dr. Mary Leakey made the important paleontological discoveries in Africa, but Dr. Louis Leakey gets all the credit. Mary Beard did a large part of the work on America in Mid's Passage, yet Charles Beard is the great social historian. The insidious process is now at work on Eve Curie. A recent book written for young people states that radium was discovered by Pierre Curie with the help of his assistant Eve, who later became his wife. Wow. Aspasia wrote the famous Oh, by the way, did you know it was a woman who invented the internet? Okay. Aspasia wrote the famous oration of the Athenians as Socrates knew, but in all the history books as Pericles' oration. Corinna taught Pindar and polished his poems for posterity. But who ever heard of Corinna? Peter Albert got his best ideas from Heloise, his acknowledged intellectual superior, yet Abelard is the great medieval scholar and philosopher. Mary Snydey probably wrote Sir Philip Snydey's Arcadia. Nausicaa wrote the Odyssey, as Samuel Butler proves in his book, The Authoress of the Odyssey, at least to the satisfaction of this writer and of Robert Graves, who comments, quote, no other alternative makes much sense, unquote. The Odyssey was written by a woman? Is that what I just heard? What did Tesla do? And his wife never got any recognition. Yes. Yes. Tesla was a weirdo around women. Yes, he was. So basically Nikola Tesla was just not it in terms of relationships to women. Yeah. Okay. Just so you know. Just so you know. Okay. It says, Nefertiti, the Egyptian queen of the 14th century BC, could well have been the author of the 104th Psalm, and the apostle Thecla, 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 may have written the epistle to the Hebrews. Yet how many people in the past 1,000 years have even so much as heard of a female apostle? The apostle Thecla, is perhaps the outstanding example after Pope Joan of gynecomenomenicothanasia, dear Lord, in the Christian church. Saint Thecla of Iconium was a historical personage, and according to the Catholic Encyclopedia, she was accepted as a, quote, bona fide apostle, unquote, by the earliest church and is still accepted as an Eastern church. She was a companion of St. Paul, who ordained her as a preacher of the gospel and an apostle of Christ. A book called The Acts of Paul and Thecla was widely read in the first 4 Christian centuries, and even as late as 590, it was referred to as an authentic document of the apostolic age. It is now included among the Apocrypha, which means the hidden books of the Bible. No one questions its authenticity, even though Tertullian had attempted to cast doubt upon it in the 3rd century until it was barred from the official canon in the New Testament in AD 367. 17 years after the date, however, St. Jerome, quote, the most learned of the Latin fathers, unquote, still vouched for its authenticity as well for the undeniable historicity of Thecla herself, the female apostle. So much is fact. There were also more female apostles too, so let's not forget that. Let us not forget. Were we trying to do the alphabet itself with that beast? This stream has my brain melting out of my earbuds. Necessary, however, yeah, I know, honestly. It's literally like oozing out of my skull, brother. Hold on, let's see how many pages we have left. We got a pretty decent amount left, honestly. I think we have like 8 pages left. Yeah, but we're in the next section of this chapter. So we're on Philippa the Feminist. Are you ready? Quote, Philippa is, as usual with the brightest specimens of female excellence, was the friend of her own sex, unquote, writes Agnes Strickland. And indeed, Philippa, the 14th century queen of Edward III of England, was one of the few active feminists of the Middle Ages. She was in a position to honor not only women, but to elevate men who honored women. It was because Philippa's appreciation of his championship of downtrodden women that the French knight Sir Bertrand du Guesclin was freed after his capture at the Battle of Poitiers, Poitiers. She paid his immense ransom herself out of her own pocket because, quote, though an enemy of my husband, a knight who is famed for his protection of women deserves my assistance, unquote. Damn. Philippa was famed throughout Europe for her beauty and the beauty of her many sons and daughters, for the gallantry of her eldest son, Edward, and the Black Prince, the epitome of medieval knighthood, and the model for generations of knights to come. But more than this, she was famed for her great innovations in social welfare, and her successful efforts to improve the condition of the poor, particularly of the women of the poor. One of the first acts after her coronation as queen at the age of 16 was to found the woolen industry at Norwich, which became, with the coal industry she was later to inaugurate at Tynedale, the basis for centuries of England's wealth and the foundation of her economy. As part of her dowry, Philippa had been given Norwich, a center of sheep growing and the production of wool for export. Too many people Philippa found on her first visit there a few months after her marriage were forced to subsist on this one source of income. She immediately sent to Flanders, her homeland, for wool kempers, combers, weavers, and dyers to instruct the people of Norwich, particularly the women, in the art of making cloth from raw wool. Predictably later, historians including Henry Holman, Charles Dickens, and those of the Cambridge Medieval History attribute the English wool industry to Edward III, and do not so much as mention Philippa's name in connection with it, but her own contemporaries, John Froissart and the unnamed monkish chronicler quoted below, as well as Fodera, gave Philippa sole credit for this boon to England. Quote, blessed be the name and memory of Queen Philippa, whose first invented English clothes, unquote. Blessed be the name and memory of Queen Philippa. Wrote a monastic chronicler later, for thanks to Philippa, the average Englishman was forever after able to wear good woolen, quote, made in England, unquote, clothing, at a great savings to himself and to the lasting benefit of the English economy. Philippa's wool factories were a far cry from the sweatshops they degenerated into in the 18th and 19th centuries. These 14th century Norwich, quote, factories, unquote, were pleasant, open places where men and women worked happily without benefit of machinery at their combing and weaving and dyeing. Quote, like a beneficent queen of the hive, Philippa cherished and protected her working bees. Nor did she disdain to blend all the magnificent of chivalry with her patronage of the productive arts, unquote. She arranged for tournaments and jousts of arms to be held at Norwich, at which the nobles and knights entertained the working people with pageantry and feasts and equestrians and swordplay. Quote, these festivals displayed the defensive class and the productive class in admirable union, when the example of Queen promoted mutual respect between them. At a period in her life which is commonly considered mere girlhood, Philippa enriched and ennobled her realm, unquote. There are many great men who are not a little gay, okay? Okay. Some are a little gay, some are not a little gay. Both are acceptable. Okay. Girl stands for all the feminists, literally. I quickly did some research and it just said that Tesla wasn't interested in women. To me, that just tells me that he's gay or asexual, aromantic. Did I miss something? No, Dragon Blingy. Basically, when he married his wife, like, he was like, don't expect me to love you. Yeah. Don't expect me to touch you. Don't expect me to care for the children. Don't expect me to do diddly squat. Piece of shit. Thank you. Okay. And I continue. To show their appreciation of their queen, the merchants and workers of Norwich were later voluntarily to raise among themselves the vast sum of 250 English pounds sterling to redeem Philippa's, quote, best crown, unquote, which she had pawned to Colony to raise money for the Scottish wars. It was while King Edward and the 16-year-old Black Prince, so called because although he was blonde like all the Plantagenets, he wore black armor, were engaged in the Battle of Cersei, I think so, in 1346, that the Scots, led by King David Bruce, descended from the northern and threatened England. Philippa was serving as regent in the absence of the king and, quote, it was now her turn to do battle royal with a king, unquote. And she did not flinch. She rallied her army at Neville's Cross and riding among the men on a white charger, she urged them, quote, for the love of God to fight manfully for their king, unquote. They assured her, at Froissart reports, that, quote, they would acquit themselves loyally, even better if the king had been there himself, unquote. And the battle was joined. In a few hours it was all over. The Scottish king had been captured, and his troops were fleeing back over to the border in a complete rout. Philippa was again the hero at the hour of the English people. As a result of Philippa's military success, quote, out of compliment to the queen's successful generalship, the English ladies began to give themselves the airs of warriors, unquote. Hats shaped like knights, helmets became the fashion, and the ladies decked themselves with jeweled daggers. Quote, the church was preparing suitable remonstrances against these fashions when all pride was at once signally confounded by the plague in which approached the shores of England in 1348, unquote. Philippa's second daughter, then aged 14, the beautiful Joanna, was one of the first to die in that terrible Black Death that was to more than decimate the population of Europe in the next few months. According to the Cambridge Medieval History, 1/3 of the people of England perished in the plague. Wow, that's so shitty. So shitty. Okay, what does it say? Sent to Friday anyway? Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna read this. A random little fact that I love is that modern chess, where the queen gained, it was born. OMG, sent it before finishing. Okay, modern chess was born in Middle-aged Spain, presumably under Isabel of Castile's region. Modern chess made the queen the most important piece of the game. That's amazing. Oh my god, I love it. Love it. Thank you for that fun fact. I loved it. Where is my spot? Okay, it said, wait. Philippa was the mother of 12 children, all handsome, all tall. Lionel and Edmund each measured nearly 7 feet in early manhood, and all unusually gifted and intelligent. 8 of them survived her, including her favorite child, Edward, the Prince of Wales. Yet none of them ever occupied the English throne. Merlin the wizard had prophesied 800 years earlier that none of the children of Edward and Philippa would reign, and Merlin proved to be right. Edward the Black Prince, quote, learned, elegant and brilliant, and strongly marked with the genius of the provincial Pelagantians, quote, the Celts, unquote, died before his father, and so upon the king's death, the small son of the Black Prince, Richard, became king of England. Philippa died in 1369 in her mid-50s, and Froissart, her secretary and protege, wrote, quote, I must now speak to the death of the most courteous, liberal, beloved, and noble lady that ever lived, the Lady Philippa of Hainaut, Queen of England, unquote. Philippa had been the patron not only of Froissart, the chronicler, but more notably of Chaucer, who is reported and so deeply grieved at her death that he withdrew into retirement. Quote, and not even the marriage of his wife's sister to the Duke of Lancaster, Philippa's son, would draw him from his retirement, unquote. It was the son of the Duke who was to wrest the crown from young Richard in the next generation and found the house of Lancaster as Henry IV. Philippa founded and endowed Queen's College at Oxford and was the patroness as well as the patient and renowned Kelia of Oxford, the outstanding physician of her day. Philippa had turned to the Scots out of England and established the great wealth-producing industries of cloth-making and coal mining, had patronized the greatest men and women of her day, and had founded a college at Oxford. But in the strange medieval mind, she was most remarkable and longest remembered for the simple fact that she had nursed her son, the Black Prince, at her breast. The Madonna and Child of the religious art during and after her lifetime, quote, were modeled from Philippa with the infant Prince of Wales at her breast, unquote. Philippa was tall, well-proportioned, and stunningly lovely in her youth, and the infant Edward was a young Hercules. Quote, the great beauty of this infant, his great size, his fair complexion, and his firm texture of limbs filled everyone with admiration who saw him. He can still be seen as the infant Jesus in many of the stained glass windows of medieval churches and cathedrals in England, and on the continent in the arms of Mother Queen Philippa of England. An odd coincidence in the fact that this good queen model for so many depictions of Virgin Mary died in the anniversary of Assumption of the Virgin into heaven, August 15th. And like Mary writes Frostart, quote, when this excellent lady who had done so much good and who had such a boundless charity for all mankind gave up her spirit, it was caught by the holy angels and carried to the glory of heaven. Queen Philippa was spared the lingering illness of her beloved son, the Black Prince, who died, quote, of a dropsy, unquote, 7 years after his mother's death. Her husband, Edward III, deteriorated mentally and morally after her demise, squandering state money on his paramour, Alice Pariners, and even ordering all the beneficiaries of his queen to give over their legacies to Alice. Quote, the closer observer of history, unquote, writes Strickland, quote, will not fail to notice that the life of Queen Philippa, the happiness, good fortune, and even respectability of Edward III and his family departed, the scenes of sterile sorrow and folly distracted the court, where she had once promoted virtue, justice, and well-regulated munificence, unquote. I know, Merlin! Super awesome. It's funny because like I literally was like promoting my friend Merlin in this too, and I had no idea we were gonna get a Merlin shout out. That's so convenient. Like only the dragons could make that happen. Like, you know what I mean? I can't wait to tell her when I'm done. She's gonna trip out, brother. I'm so excited. Okay. We're almost done with this one, okay? We're almost done. It's this is the next section, okay? It says the social reformers. Britain has been very fortunate in her queens. Whether as monarchs or as consorts, they have shown greater talent for rule, as Mill noted, than kings. And since time immemorial, British queens have been in the forefront of the struggle for social and civic reform. The English common law, on which our legal systems is based and which provides the germ of the United States Bill of Rights, was first provised and promulgated by a queen, a Celtic queen, Marcia Proba, who reigned in Britain in the 3rd century BC. Quote, Marcia, surnamed Proba, the just, unquote, writes Raphael Hollinshead, quote, perceiving much in the conduct of her subjects which needed reform, devised sundry laws, which the Britons, after her death, named the Marcian Statutes, or the Marcian Statutes. Alfred the Great caused the laws, this excellently learned princess, to be established in the entire realm of England, unquote. Geoffrey of Monmouth, writing in the 12th century, says of Marcia, on the death of King Guthelen Marcia, a noble woman who was skilled in all the arts and who was extremely intelligent, yet at the same time most practical, ruled over this entire land. Among the many extraordinary things she used her natural talents to invent was a law she devised, which was called the Lex Martiana by the Britons. King Alfred translated this along with other laws. In the Saxon tongue, he called it the Mercian law, unquote. Thus, the common law generally attributed to King Alfred the Great was originally promulgated at a millennium before his reign by a Celtic queen of the Britons, whose name no longer appears in the encyclopedias. Crazy. That's crazy. Among the great reforms, many no doubt borrowed from the Brehon laws of the Celts, was the right to trial by jury, a concept unknown in Roman law. It is ironic that the idea of peer jury trial, so sacred in modern jurisprudence, and first promulgated by a woman, has been denied to women almost since its inception. Wow. To this day, women of England and the United States are still tried and sent to their deaths by jurors who are not their peers. Only women receives more law than justice. But in the case of peer jury trial, women receives neither law nor justice. Even today, women jurors do not preponderate at the trials of women as according to the law as they should. Another neglected queen of early England was Aethelfald, the daughter of this same Alfred the Great, who perpetuated the laws of Marcia. On his death in AD 906, Alfred bequeathed to his son Edward the kingdom of Wessex, and to his daughter Aethelflaed. I'm going to read it to you. Spell it. It's Aethelflaed. I am not sure how to pronounce that. So, Aethelfald, I don't know. His kingdom of Mercia, or Mercia, which is funny. Mercia, it's not that. It's Mercia. According to William of Malmesbury, quote, Aethelflaed for a generation gave Mercia the most conscientious and effective government, unquote. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicles credits her with the building and settling of nearly a score of towns, of planting military excursions, and of winning back from all the Danes all of Leicester, Derby, and York, which had been captured in King Alfred's time. Most of her victories she obtained peaceably, according to the Chronicle, by persuasion rather than by force. And the time of her death in 1918, quote, all the people of York had promised her that they would be under her direction, but very soon after they had agreed to this, she died 12 days before midsummer in Tamworth, in the 12th year in which the lawful authority she was holding dominion over the Mercians. And her body is buried in Gloucester, in the East Chapel of Peter's Church, unquote. Her brother Edward then descended upon Mercia, and, quote, all the people which had been subjected to Aethelfald, oh my gosh, submitted to him. And the daughter of Aethelfald was deprived of the authority in Mercia and taken to Wessex. She called Alfwin, unquote. This book and its names, oof, how do you do it? It's very, very, very difficult. These are very hard to read. I am really, really at my limit right now with reading this. Talking about powerful women, I'm so looking forward to the Princess Leonore's ascent to the Spanish throne. It's so important in this country that hasn't had a queen since the 16th century. After what happened to Isabel of Castile's daughter, Juana la Loca, the crazy one. No, she wasn't crazy at all. Yeah, Santiago, you're so right about that. She was not la Loca. It was everyone else who was la Loca. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, it says where did I get lost? I lost my spot. And so the little queen was deposed by her wicked uncle Edward, and who had not dared interfere with the kingdom in Aethelfald's lifetime. Aethelfald's memory for a remark she is reported by William of Malmesbury to have made at the court of her father, Alfred, shortly after her marriage to Ethelred, her future consort in Mercia, or America, I don't know. On being asked why she refused the embraces of her husband, Aethelflaed, dear Lord, replied that, quote, it was unbecoming in a king's daughter to give way to a delight which produced such unpleasant consequences, unquote. She was a badass for that one. Hold on, I think this is the problem. Yeah, that was the problem. All along, that was the problem the whole life. Thank you. Thank you, hair. Let's see. I'm gonna read that again. On being asked why she refused the embraces of her husband, Athafalded replied that, quote, it was unbecoming in a king's daughter to give way to a delight which produced such unpleasant consequences, unquote. She was so real for that. So real for that. Yet her daughter, Alfwin, constitutes proof that at some time this king's daughter did give way to a delight that produced consequences. That's true. It was a queen also who reestablished the civil rights of the English people after the Norman conquest. The Normans had brought with them to England in the 11th century the Franco-Christian legal system of the continent, a far less democratic and egalitarian system than that of those two great lawgivers, Celtic Marcia and Saxon Alfred. The English chafed and the attriation of the liberties under the first two Williams, the Conqueror and his son Rufus, and latter of whom, says the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, quote, was hateful to all his people, unquote. When William Rufus was mysteriously shot to death while hunting in the New Forest, his younger brother Henry, the first of the Norman heirs to have been born on English soil, ascended the throne as Henry I. It was this king's love for a princess and his willingness to be influenced by her that brought about the restoration of the ancient liberties to the English people. This princess was Matilda of Scotland, daughter of the Saxon heir of England, Margaret of Atheling. Margaret, fleeing England after the conquest with her mother and brother, had married Malcolm, Macbeth's adversary, and had thus become Queen of the Scots. She had then sent her eldest daughter, Matilda or Maud, to Wilton, where the English royal family had for centuries sent their daughters to be educated, and there Henry had seen her. On his ascension to the throne, he at once asked Malcolm and Margaret for the hand of their daughter in marriage, a proposal that met with the approval of the parents, but Matilda unaccountably refused the offer. Matilda had remained true to her English roots, and the suffering of her people under the Normans had deeply impressed and disturbed her. At the urging of her parents, however, and in the belief that she might, as Queen of England, alleviate the oppression of her people, she finally consented to Henry's suit, on condition that he promised as king to, quote, restore to the English nation their ancient laws and privileges, as established by King Alfred and ratified by King Edward the Confessor, unquote. On Henry's solemn oath to accept these conditions, quote, the daughter of the royal line of Alfred consented to share his throne, unquote. Henry immediately repealed all the astringent civil laws imposed by his predecessors, the two Williams, and caused a digest of the laws of Alfred to be made and copies sent to all the towns of England, quote, to form a legal authority for the demands of the people, unquote. Upon the initial act of good faith on the part of King Henry, Princess Matilda married him on November 11th, 1100. Quote, many were the good laws made in England through Maud, the good queen, unquote, wrote the chronicler. Robert of Gloucester said, she caused regular welfare benefits to be extended to pregnant women on the poor and founded 2 free hospitals for the underprivileged, St. Giles and in the fields of the Christ Church. She founded 2 free hospitals for the underprivileged, St. Giles in the fields and Christ Church. She repaired and improved the roads and bridges throughout the land that had fallen into disrepair under the Normans. And, as a contemporary chronicler wrote, here's a little excerpt. She visited the sick and the poor with diligence, the prisoners and women eke with child, lying in abject misery about, clothes, meat, and bedding undefiled, and wine and ale she gave withouten doubt, when she saw need in counties all throughout. But above all, in Strickland's words, quote, to this queen of English lineage, English education, and English heart, we may trace all the constitutional blessings which this free country at present enjoys. It was through her influence that Henry granted the important character that formed the model and the precedent of the great palladium in English liberty, the Magna Carta. Wow. And it was this princess who refused to leave her gloomy covenant at Wilton and to give her hand to the handsomest and most accomplished sovereign of his time, till she had obtained just and merciful laws for her suffering country, the repeal of the tyrannical imposition of the curfew, and the recognition of the rights of the common people, unquote. This good queen, known to generations of Englishmen as Saint Maud, died in 1118 at the age of 41, and with her died many of the hard-won benefits she had bestowed on her people. For after her death, Henry reverted to type, the Norman tyrannical type of his father and brother. In the reign of King John, 100 years after the time of good Queen Maud, when the digest of the Henry Laws and Matilda was sought, only one copy could be found. Quote, it was thought that after the death of his queen, Henry I destroyed all copies he could lay his hands on in a covenant which his later years he regretted having granted. On this one extant copy, Magna Carta was framed, unquote. Thus, Magna Carta, that eminent milestone in human advancement, like the English common law, was a direct descendant of the Martian statutes and the Celtic Queen Marcia, by way of Alfred the Great, Edward the Confessor, and the quote digest unquote of Henry and Matilda, and the ultimate source of the Martian statutes was the Brehon laws of the ancient Celts, who determined champions of liberty and justice. According to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the genealogies included in Dorothy Whitelock's edition of it, there was a great deal of Celtic blood in the royal Saxon line of Alfred, and so in his direct descendant Matilda. All of the descendants of Matilda therefore derived Celtic genes from her. More Celtic blood was injected into the English royal line when Matilda's daughter, the Empress Matilda, married Geoffrey Plantagenet, quote, the provincial Celt, unquote. The son of Geoffrey was the younger Matilda, who became Henry II of England in 1154, and thus more Celtic than either Norman or Saxon, and were all the, quote, golden, unquote, Plantagenet. I don't know why they have to do the golden thing. The Celtic influence remained a force to be reckoned with, and the Celts were then and are now by no means dead or a dying breed. And that's it for our reading today. That was a lot. That is a lot. There was a lot of fuckery in this one. I hope that it wasn't too terribly triggering. I know I had a hard time reading a lot of this today, so if you guys had a hard time too, totally understandable. But I think that I was not expecting the King of the Hill reference in this chat. Oh my gosh. Oh, sir, I wanted to mention that I was trying your tapping technique to overcome trauma, and it works. Thank you. Yes, Dragon Blingy, I'm so happy that you tried it. It really helps me so much. Let's see. Nice to hear the influences of women. Oh, nice to hear the influences of women in history. You barely hear women in power in the regular history books. Yes, this is why I had to. My fairy dragon guardian yelled at me, so here I am. Welcome. It wasn't really a spoiler, not a big one. No problem. Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, guys, I hope that you guys really enjoyed that. I know that I did. I know that it was kind of a lot, like this book normally is. I feel like we're in class. Azura's the teacher in the chat is made for passing notes. You guys are so cute. I love that like analogy. I hope you guys know that it is going to be kind of bittersweet when we finish this book. I'm pretty sure the last chapter, I'm pretty sure the next video that I make on reading this book is going to be the end of this. Yes, we're going to be reading chapter 18. We're going to be reading chapter 19, 20, 20. Oh, let's see. Maybe I have enough for, hold on. Okay, we have 18, 19, and 20. And then we have 21. Oh no, it looks like, I don't know. I think we should finish the book in the next episode. Totally. I've been loving this lecture. Hell yeah. It is a lot is in understatement. Yeah, I know. Me realizing humor is a trauma response again. But hey, you know what? Oh, there goes my hair again. But you know what? At least you have a sense of humor. Silver lining, right? What book is this, by the way? I'd love to read it too, along with listening and disagreeing with you all. Oh, digesting it with you all. Yeah, it's called The First Sex by Elizabeth Gould Davis, and it's honestly like what I would call my Bible. Like, I know that might seem kind of silly to some people, but like just the amount of just stuff that's in this. Hi, Jem Smith. Welcome to your daily dose of Dragon Feather. We just finished today's reading of The First Sex by Elizabeth Gould Davis. If I didn't laugh, I'd cry. Same, Karina. Absolutely same. This book is just incredibly difficult read. It's incredibly offensive, and it's riddled with untruths. Offensive, right? we're reading it together on live to truth within it, amongst the chaos in this. How dare you call me that, JK? You said no. But you guys are so silly. I think the author overstated the impact of Celts on English culture and law, though. I don't really know. I don't really know. Rebel child witchery, also known as black humor. No, what I'm gonna tell you though is there is like what's it called? The theme of this book asserting the fact that like the germination of like modern day civilization came from the descendants of like here. So it's very Nazi coded, right? Nazi coded. Okay. So like we're basically just reading this to kind of like, you know, what's it called? To kind of understand and whatnot. But what I will say is in terms of like the Christians taking over basically our world, the last stronghold were the Celtic lands, because the paganism in Ireland and in this like the Scottish Highlands and in Wales and in you know, just those countries, like the Celtic countries, even England too. Like England literally is considered like the British Isles is like considered Celtic land, right? That was literally the last stronghold of paganism before we fully dominated it pretty much out of existence, right? And it still has never recovered from it. But TikTok idea, you take me serious? I would do that, buddy. Chill, seriously. That's like honestly something that I have to like remind people on my channel, especially in like my real life. Like I have like you know people who are in my real life. I'm just like don't take my content seriously. Like my content isn't for friends and family. Like my content isn't for the people in my real life. Okay, my content is for me. All right, like I make this content for me first, and then for the hatchlings second, and like anyone else who needs to like figure out this knowledge, and for ladies, okay, because I literally have been subjected to so psychological shit just because I'm a woman, and I think um a lot of the women in the world, I just feel like don't know how like awesome and powerful they are. Do you know? So yeah, I'm here to remind you guys about that. Scandinavia was the last stronghold. Proud Scot here, well by blood, technically Canadian, but we don't talk about that. Well, guess what? Also, fun fact, Wales has always had witchcraft. Even in their language, they have different words for witchcraft, for witch, right? Like, I can't say it the best, but like, it's called a Swin Henrik? Oh fuck. It's really hard. I'm doing my best I can, but it's still kind of difficult. Queen of the Andals. Yes, exactly. Exactly. My ethnicity is Wonder Bread. Rebel, that's so funny. Okay, I thought that my computer was about to commit die. No, not the computer. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's live. It was crazy. It was a little bit difficult, but the next time we read this book, we will be finishing it, so that'll be pretty excited. I'm pretty excited. Khaleesi, protector of the first men. Yes, breaker of chains, mother of dragons, prep. Oh, Pepe, shit. Shade late. Welcome back to your daily dose of Dragon Feather. It's good to see you, my friend. I was gonna say, tomorrow we're either gonna do a video on Dragonkin, video, or we're gonna do a video on the different types of dragons I have worked with. What do you think sounds better? Are you guys more into a dragon type discussion tomorrow, or do you want a Dragonkin discussion tomorrow? So if you have a preference, let me know in the comment section, because you can choose your daily dose of Dragon Feather right now tomorrow. I'm leaning towards dragon types tomorrow. I've worked with a lot of different types of dragons. Dragonkin, dragon types. Oh no, we got one for each. Can I make a poll? I think I can make a poll. Hold on. Yeah, let's start a poll. Okay. You guys vote. Dragonkin or dragon types. Okay, ready? Go. Okay, vote for the poll. Vote for the poll, my friends. I don't really know how long it'll last, but go ahead and leave your votes. Dragonkin, please, I need answers. Well, we're gonna do all of them. Okay, we're gonna do both, right? We're gonna do a Dragonkin stream, and we are gonna do a dragon type stream. It's just you guys get to choose which one you want to do first. You know what I mean? I didn't know you could make polls. That's cool. I know, I'm like really trying to get it involved. Okay, it looks like Dragon Types is winning so far for tomorrow. I will leave it on a little bit longer, so if anyone else wants to cast their votes, they can do it. But so far, it looks like Dragon Types is the winner for tomorrow. And then after that, we'll be doing another reading of the Quran, and then we'll finish with, we'll do the Dragonkin one, depending. So I'm Angelkin too. It lasts until you end it. Oh, okay, well that makes sense. But I guess then I'm gonna end it now because it seems like you guys want the Dragon Types for tomorrow. So we're gonna do that. And then with that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. And then after the Dragon Types, we'll do another reading of the Quran. And then after that, we'll do the Dragonkin, okay? I want you guys to be more like involved in picking what we talk about here on the Daily Dose of Dragon Feather, because protector of the realm. Yes, exactly. Because like I want you guys to be getting what you guys want out of this too, okay? Right? Like I want to like touch upon the topics that you guys like too, or that you guys need help with, if that makes sense. So other than that, that's pretty much all I have for you today. But I wanted to say thank you guys so much for spending some of your day with me today. I had so much fun. I literally missed you so much. I know I was only gone for like 2 days of the Daily Dose of Dragon Feather, but I was going through some serious hatchling withdrawals, okay? So it's been hella good to see you guys. It's all good. I think I got my confirmation. Yay! That's awesome. What do you look for in a woman? I wish I could welcome you. I don't know how to say your name, but welcome to your Daily Dose of Dragon Feather. I just hope that people can not be so serious about gender roles. It's ridiculous. Relax. Jim Smith, I'm so glad I found this channel. Yay! I'm so glad you found us. We're so happy to have you here. And thank you for joining the Hatchlings, because we're the coolest kids on the block. And I will tell everybody that the Hatchlings, the best audience in the world. You want to know why? Because we are a family. We are a unit. We're working with each other to learn about the truths of the universe, encouraging each other to be our geeky, cheeky, and freaky selves, no matter what anyone else says. And guess what? I'm here to remind you that you are the key. You are the key. You are literally the key to your reality, okay? Like, you are the coolest motherfucker in your life. Don't ever forget it, okay? Don't ever forget it. You get to have whatever you want in this life. Do you want to have shitty things, or do you want to have good things? It all starts with how you think about yourself, okay? And here we are here to help each other, build each other up, and just have the best life that we possibly can. Do you know what I mean? Subscribe, really enjoy this live. Thank you so much, Santiago. I can't wait to see you next time. But anyway, thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your day with me today, because at the end of the day, I could just be live streaming to nobody, and I could be talking to the void and reading all by myself and have no friends to talk with dragons. But because of you guys, I just have like the most wonderful, wholesome community here, and I literally could not thank you enough. I literally couldn't. Queen, Regent of Dragonstone. Yeah, you guys are so funny. You were like, Khaleesi, the mother of dragons. Oh, Dragon Blinchy, you honor me. That is so sweet. But I hope you guys literally stay strong, okay? You guys are awesome badasses. We'll see you tomorrow for some dragon type discussion. I'm super excited about that. But until next time, stay geeky, cheeky, and freaky. Little hatchlings. Okay, blessed be, and bye, my loves.